Chapter 2295 The Reason Behind Everything Part 2 Jian Wushuang read on. I had thought of everything, but nothing would work. I could not even restore the 7-star divine realm's spiritual influence of heaven and earth. If I wasn't dead, maybe I could have. But because of that, I had a thought. I needed to create another me, another perfect chaotic life form. Jian Wushuang was taken aback. According to Shen Yi, the perfect chaotic life form was created naturally, and there had only been one from the birth of the absolute beginning divine world till now. To create such a life form artificially? Was that possible? Even I thought that the idea was crazy. But no matter how crazy it was the 7-star black sects, and my own last hope. I started to research. First, to create the perfect chaotic life form, he needed to be optimized at every aspect of a cultivator. From that ancient battle onwards, I tried countless times, and finally created a brand new cultivating system. It was inverse cultivation. Jian Wushuang was shocked. Inverse cultivation. Inverse cultivation was indeed created by his master. He had created it after countless failures to form a perfect chaotic life form. So is the ultimate goal of the inverse cultivation the perfect chaotic life form? Jian Wushuang murmured as he read on. The inverse cultivation system starts off with the perfect foundation, then the perfect chaotic holy body, finally the perfect chaotic life form. The creation of this system was the first step to my plan. There was hope. But I did not realize the cultivating requirements were too strict. Countless guys from the first era could not even perfect the perfect foundation. I was in despair, but a lucky fellow cultivated the perfect foundation. He was Emperor Bai. He had heard Emperor Bai mention Shen Yi teaching him inverse cultivation before. He did not know Shen Yi was testing him amongst countless other experts, but only he made it to perfect foundation. I thought of countless ways to help him improve, and he did not disappoint. He passed the inverse cultivation test and made it to the perfect chaotic holy body. But unfortunately, I realized he could never become the perfect chaotic life form. I could tell. He lacked something from birth. My experiment ended in failure. But that did not bring me down. I saw hope. I realized from Emperor Bai that the deficiency came from birth. You could only rectify it if you changed the factors of the birth, and before it. The first era experts under the barren spiritual energy all came with that deficiency to reach perfect chaotic life form. So, I formed a whole new environment. That environment is where my head was at that battlefield. My head is the source of all power, it is the origin. Even though I had collapsed, it was still the head of the perfect chaotic life form. With countless tries, I reformed whatever power was left from it, and created the green fire world. Jian Wushuang could no longer control himself. Indeed, the green fire world had been created from that head, from Master's remaining energy and life. Jian Wushuang was stunned. I am the perfect chaotic life form, and all those that are born from that world will, therefore, be my offspring. Cultivators from there naturally will be able to become perfect chaotic life forms, making up for that deficiency. Next, just as I had expected, the green fire world started to prosper with more cultivators. I passed down the inverse cultivation via many channels, and finally, the first inverse cultivation expert from the green fire world, Emperor Qing, was born. Although she made up for the deficiency, she was not able to combine all her perfect factors together. To mitigate that, I created a seasoner, the universal Tao scripture. Jian Wushuang was taken aback once again. The universal Tao scripture is indeed special. Jian Wushuang had known that it was very unique from the very beginning. He had even suspected that he was able to absorb quickly due to it. Looked like he was right. Not only was it extraordinary, but it was also part of the inverse cultivation. Only when one had cultivated the universal Tao scripture would one able to combine all the perfect factors learnt from inverse cultivation to become truly perfect. Emperor Bai could not become the perfect chaotic life form due to his deficiency. Emperor Qing had collapsed too soon without combining the factors. Next. Soon after I created the universal Tao scripture, the second inverse cultivation expert from Green Fire World was you. Chapter 2296 The Reason Behind Everything Part 3 Soon after I created the universal Tao scripture, The second inverse cultivation expert from Greenfire World was you. Jian Wushuang read on. This time, with my 2 attempts behind me, I was confident. I prepared myself and handed you the universal Tao scripture personally. Long before you were born, when that inverse cultivation pearl landed at the ancient worlds where you were born, I was waiting for you already. So as to prevent suspicion from others, I joined the ancient sect as an eternal realm cultivator and took in 3 lineal disciples. I only took the 3 in because I liked them, I helped them too, but their achievements were completely based on their own effort. After waiting for tens of thousands of years, you were born, and soon stepped into the path of inverse cultivation. The next bit was obvious. After you arrived at Greenfire Palace, I took you in as the ancient sect sword palace master and passed you the universal Tao scripture. As you grew, I passed you the Blood Mountain sword and Mountain River map as well. As the Jin Kingdom problem appeared, I had to do something about it, but that would have exposed a lot about me, so the logical decision then was to disappear in front of you. I split my willpower into 2, one disappeared in front of you, the other hid inside the Mountain River map and watched you grow. I could save you when needed that way. Xian Yi did not mention it, but Xian Yi had helped him multiple times when he was at the brink of death back at the eternal chaotic world. Like at the 8th lair, against countless Star Demon clansmen, Xian Yi had secretly passed secret skills of Star Palace's powers to that standalone space for Long Qi to discover and help Jian Wushuang. Like at the Buddhist Demon Sea, against Akron Palace, at the brink of death Xian Yi secretly released Mountain River Map's powers out, awakening Old Monster Jiao and One Star Man. One Star Man had even passed Jian Wushuang an opportunity because he had sensed Xian Yi's aura. At the ancient battlefield near Greenfire World, at the Chillywind Valley where Jian Wushuang had first met Emperor 13, not only had he not killed him, but he had left a mark on him as well, and that was because he could sense Xian Yi's consciousness within the Mountain River map. Your growth was faster than expected. When you reached perfect chaotic holy body, my consciousness in the Mountain River map could sense that you were different from Emperor Qing and Emperor Bai. You had everything needed to become a perfect chaotic life form. I knew you were the one I'd been looking for. But, to become the perfect chaotic life form, there would be one more step, inverse cultivation's 8th step. Reincarnation. Only with that move can you truly be born into the absolute beginning divine world as a perfect chaotic life form. I started making preparations. When the eternal chaotic world fought against the 3 emperors world, I appeared not only to help you suppress Blood Emperor but also to send Emperor 13 a message. I got him to make preparations, to prepare a small-scale reincarnation. The small-scale reincarnation was in the reincarnation pearl. Emperor 13 used One Star Man to pass it to you, to let you think it was a simple treasure used to understand reincarnation rules of order, but it was the key to everything. After that, I heard that the Masters of Holy Land from the absolute beginning divine world were about to open a link passage at Heaven's horizon. Just in time. After all, even though the small-scale reincarnation had been set up, it still needed to link to the absolute beginning divine world. It was hard for even Emperor 13, One Star Man and the others to link due to the restrictions. But if they opened it from the other side, that would be a whole new story. Thus, the perfect plan was formed. While they opened the link passage, I would open the reincarnation passage for you. But there was a catch. I could only send your soul in, not your body. The soul that enters the reincarnation passage must be at peace as well, with no signs of resistance. The best way was for your soul to sleep first, but it would be difficult for you if your soul was not hurt. There was only one way to do it: you would die, and I would revive your soul via spacetime reversal. Jian Wushuang did not know how to feel. At the same time, the many questions he had were resolved. That's the reason, his master Xian Yi, in order to release 7-star divine realm from its predicament, had created the inverse cultivation system to find the second perfect chaotic life form. The birth of Greenfire World, and everything before it, had been for that one motive. Emperor Bai and the other inverse cultivators in the eternal chaotic world were simply failed products of Xian Yi's. And there were 8 steps in inverse cultivation. Jian Wushuang had already reached the pinnacle 7th step. But the last step needed reincarnation, leading to the deliberate plans made by Xian Yi, Emperor 13, and One Star Man. Their calculations had even taken into account the use of the power of the three masters of Holy Land to open absolute beginning divine world's reincarnation passage, sending Jian Wushuang over. This had been Xian Yi's motive from the very beginning, since the ancient era. Chapter 2297 Wait for me. After understanding everything, Jian Wushuang could not help but admire and respect him. He had full respect and admiration for his master. His master was dead but had used his willpower to continue to rule the lands. He had created a whole new inverse cultivation system and created the second perfect chaotic lifeform artificially. How insane was that? Xian Yi may have made it sound easy, but Jian Wushuang definitely knew it was not. Xian Yi had prepared for it since the ancient era. He had only perfected it 2 eras later. How many years had that taken? It must have been insanely long from the ancient era to the first era. Then from the first era to the second era. He did not know how long it was, but he knew that Green Fire World had been formed 40 million years ago, and Green Fire World was obviously born in the second era. Add that to the ancient era and first era. Xian Yi had spent billions of years. Billions of years. Jian Wushuang was dumbfounded. From his cultivation till now, even after reincarnation, barely 100,000 years had passed. He could not understand the concept of 1 billion years. But Xian Yi had spent so many years and experienced so many failures, all for the second perfect chaotic lifeform to emerge. Jian Wushuang respected him for that. Furthermore, he had not done it for himself. He had done it for the 7-star divine realm and for the many lifeforms trapped within 7-star divine realm's restriction formation. He had been creating a chance for the living to escape. And he had done it. Jian Wushuang knew that he probably did not possess such determination and patience. He could not even fathom a plan that would last billions of years. But Xian Yi had done it. Master was impressive, Jian Wushuang said. Jian Wushuang read on. Disciple, sending you down the reincarnation passage was the last I could do for you. Now that that's done, I can finally rest. It's all up to you now. You can only use your own strength to grow within the absolute beginning divine world. You must at least reach Emperor 13's abilities to use the boundless divine power given to you by your perfect chaotic lifeform. Use special abilities to unlock the formation, and help the countless 7-star divine realm cultivators and 7-star black sect experts to escape. But once you have chosen to do it, you must be prepared to go against much absolute beginning divine world forces. Of course, by then, the 7-star black sect experts will definitely help you. I set up a space-time formation at the battlefield where your hometown is. It will slowly restore the spiritual influence of heaven and earth at that area, hitting near pinnacle 7-star divine realm levels. The 7-star black sect experts at that battlefield will restore to pinnacle levels. They are strong, and they will help you. As for the mission behind the perfect chaotic lifeform, you will know for yourself. Lastly, I'll pass you an opportunity. These are the 5 strongest secret skills of 7-star black sect's pinnacle period, the complete ones. It includes my self-created heaven slaughter skill. Learn them. Take care, lad. The message disappeared. 7-star black sect's 5 strongest secret skills, along with the heaven slaughter skill, were all ingrained in Jian Wushuang's mind. Jian Wushuang felt heavy after learning everything. He knew that his master's willpower had most likely disappeared after sending that message. Meaning to say, his master was truly gone. Despite his master having collapsed in the ancient era, his willpower remained. But now, that willpower was gone as well. Master, leave it to me. Jian Wushuang, in fetus form, still managed to show a tinge of resolution in his black bright eyes. He had been born in the 7-star divine realm, in Xian Yi's forehead-formed green fire world. Xian Yi had spent so many years, along with the effort of countless experts, and had finally sent his soul to the reincarnation passage towards the absolute beginning divine world, creating the second perfect chaotic lifeform. He now carried the burden and responsibility of the 7-star divine realm. He needed to reach the formation seal, and lead the countless 7-star divine realm cultivators back to the absolute beginning divine world. He also needed to fulfill the mission given to him as the perfect chaotic lifeform. My parents, my brothers, my friends, They are all trapped there. I am their final and only hope. I cannot let them down. A fire was burning within Jian Wushuang. A flame of resolution. Wait for me, guys. Jian Wushuang howled. Of course, he knew that it would not be possible in the short term in his condition. He needed time to improve his abilities. He was sure of what had happened, the situation he was in, and what he needed to do next. Like Master said, I have succeeded at reincarnation. I should be at my inverse cultivation 8th step. I'm a perfect chaotic life form now. But how is that different from other ordinary life forms? Jian Wushuang checked his body curiously. As an infant, he had absolutely no power, but his soul power followed him and had not diminished at all. Chapter 2298 Perfect chaotic life form. Using his soul power, he checked every part of his new body, organs, bones, veins, cells. Perfect, it's perfect. Jian Wushuang was shocked. He couldn't complain about anything regarding his body. Regardless of if it were his organs, bones, veins, or cells, they were all fine. If you could tell someone's talent from his body, Jian Wushuang would be perfect. No hairline cracks or faults could be found. That was what it meant to be a perfect chaotic life form. At the absolute beginning divine world, determining someone as an expert would be done via his physical qualities, abilities, understanding, and so on. Having 1 or 2 beyond average human levels was enough to be crowned as a genius. But Jian Wushuang was perfect from every angle, every factor, to a point where he no longer could improve further. No, even though my body is perfect, I'm afraid I'm not a perfect chaotic life form yet. From his master's message, a perfect chaotic life form was unique and born a chaotic divine demon. Like his master Xian Yi. Although Jian Wushuang had become a perfect chaotic life form under his master's guidance, he was but a baby and was no chaotic divine demon. He was like the others, powerless, and needed to retrain all over again. Jian Wushuang had to recover his pinnacle abilities 1 step at a time. Only when I restore my powers and reach the 8th step of the inverse cultivation, meaning to say I reach the chaotic divine demon level, will I become a perfect chaotic life form, Jian Wushuang thought. After reincarnation, his priority was now to restore his pinnacle powers. In terms of that, Jian Wushuang's soul power was released slowly, covering the entire governor mansion. Indeed, absolute beginning divine world is different. The spiritual influence of heaven and earth is so rich, way beyond eternal chaotic world levels, Jian Wushuang murmured. He could sense that the spiritual influence of heaven and earth at absolute beginning divine world was 10-fold or even 100-fold stronger than in his own hometown Greenfire world. At a place with such rich spiritual influence over heaven and earth, Jian Wushuang's work would be much easier. After all, he had reached chaotic divine demon levels before. His understanding of Tao and rules were still intact. All he needed was time and sufficient spiritual influence of heaven and earth, and he would recover in a short period of time. As a perfect chaotic life form, I should be absorbing the spiritual influence of heaven and earth way faster than before. It'll take me 30 years tops to restore my pinnacle abilities. Even faster if I have some treasures, Jian Wushuang smiled. 20 or 30 years were nothing to him compared to the 100,000 years he had lived in eternal chaotic world. Suddenly, Jian Wushuang felt something, and the soul power that covered the entire mansion disappeared. On his bed, Zhuo Yunfeng was frowning slightly. "Husband, what is it?" Luo Xinqin on the bed looked over. "Nothing, I just felt a strong soul power. It was like someone was peeking, but now it is gone." "The other party withdrew it," Zhuo Yunfeng said. "Probably an expert passing by, sweeping randomly. No ill intent, I suppose," Zhuo Peng said. Probably," Zhuo Yunfeng nodded and looked back towards the newborn baby. The little boy in Luo Xinqin's arms was in shock at that moment. What observant skills, he noticed my soul power immediately. "Has my new father?" Jian Wushuang had his eyes wide open as he started at Zhuo Yunfeng. He noticed Luo Xinqin and Zhuo Peng as well. My new parents, and a brother. Jian Wushuang thought. He had his own parents back at the eternal chaotic world. But after reincarnation, he was another family's son. Looks like my days at absolute beginning divine world won't be too lonely after all, Jen Wushuang murmured. At the same time, he recalled a beautiful figure. It was Leng Rushuang. He knew that Leng Rushuang had been sent here as well. Meaning to say, Leng Rushuang was probably born into the world as well. But he dared not wonder if Leng Rushuang had retained her memories or not. Shuang, I have a gut feeling that we'll meet soon. I'll recognize you then. Jen Wushuang was full of anticipation. Over the day, news of the second son being born into the governor's mansion spread across the entire Incineration Moon City. Incineration Moon City was even more lively. For the 9 years and 9 months the governor's wife Luo Xinqin had been pregnant, the snow had not stopped for even a moment. But now that he was born, the snow had entirely dissipated and the skies were clear. Everyone knew it was no coincidence. Furthermore, the sword that had descended from above was shocking. Many people sensed it despite it being late at night. Many servants and guards of the governor's mansion saw it as well. It could not be hidden for too long. Soon, news of the sword, the arrival of Taoist priest Shen Shen, and the name Jen Wushuang spread across the entire Incineration Moon City. Word spread like wildfire. It did not take long for most of Anzhou Commandery to catch news of it as well. Everyone knew that this newborn son of the Incineration Moon City was determined to live an extraordinary life. Chapter 2299. Different 8 years passed by in a flash. Jen Wushuang was 8 years old. Incineration Moon City, Governor's Mansion, within a study. A green-shirted Jen Wushuang was sitting down on a chair as he read a jade bamboo strip. Jen Wushuang had grown much during those 8 years, but his childlike appearance was something even Jen Wushuang himself could not get rid of. The gap between absolute beginning divine world and eternal chaotic world was too big, Jen Wushuang murmured. The jade bamboo strip he held onto was no secret skill, but a simple chronicle. It contained information about absolute beginning divine world, along with its myths. Jen Wushuang had read many such chronicles over the past 8 years, learning much more about the absolute beginning divine world than before. Without a doubt, absolute beginning divine world was completely different from the eternal chaotic world. Although eternal chaotic world had once been part of the absolute beginning divine world, ever since his master had placed the seal breaking it away, the eternal chaotic world had turned into something completely different. The difference had manifested in many ways. For one, the spiritual influence of heaven and earth, cultivators' born abilities, physical qualities, powers, were all different. But after reading chronicles for 8 years, the biggest difference Jen Wushuang had inferred was that the eternal chaotic world had already broken away from the natural cycle of life, the heaven way. The heaven way could not be challenged. By rights, as long as you were born onto that land, you would be controlled by heaven way. But in reality, the restriction formation that his master Shen Yi had placed had allowed eternal chaotic world to break away from the heaven way, or at least blocked heaven way's willpower from influencing it. The cultivators from eternal chaotic world should feel the heaven way as well, even understanding the power of heaven way and its rules, but it was much more difficult than doing it at absolute beginning divine world. It has its pros and cons. The disadvantage was that cultivators had a hard time understanding the heaven way powers. The land was not stable, allowing for strong cultivators to wreak havoc and wipe away voids in the blink of an eye. The advantage was that cultivators could survive better without heaven way restrictions. Meaning to say, the cultivators there could live much longer. Many cultivators of the eternal chaotic world, even the sector gods and real gods, could survive for hundreds of millions of years. Ancient almighties like Emperor Bai had even survived from the first era to the second era. Their longevity was uncontrolled. As long as the land continued to exist, they could live on forever. That could never have happened at the absolute beginning divine world. Jen Wushuang knew that the absolute beginning divine world was under the complete control of the heaven way. All things abided by the laws of nature that they were in, making heaven way extremely terrifying. Under those circumstances, it was impossible to go against heaven way. There were restrictions to the longevity of living beings in absolute beginning divine world as well. Chaotic realm experts could live on forever at the eternal chaotic world, but in the absolute beginning divine world, they could only live for 10,000 years. Chaotic divine demons could only live for 100,000 years. Compared to the eternal chaotic world, it was really short. But because of this, the balance of absolute beginning divine world could be maintained, preventing the world from being overloaded with experts. Heaven Wei, as Jian Wushuang was murmuring, he remembered the ancient display he had seen in Xian Yi's head. Xian Yi had not only faced experts and masters of Holy Land, he had also faced the willpower of Heaven Wei. Maybe, the Heaven Wei did not allow for a perfect chaotic lifeform to exist. Dong. Dong. There was a knock. Jian Wushuang looked up and said, "Enter." A maid walked in and bowed. "Young lord, your father has requested you to be at the training field." "Training field?" "Understood." The maid bowed slightly and left. He placed the jade bamboo strip down and made his way over. The training field at the mansion was not big, but it was enough for normal cultivators to duel in. There were many standing there at the training field. Amongst those people was his father Zhui Yunfeng, some guards and servants, and a handsome middle-aged man with a sword. The handsome middle-aged man had some stubble on him and was looking lively. "Father," Jian Wushuang appeared in front of Zhui Yunfeng. "Shuang, come, let me introduce you to my good friend from the Lin clan. You should call him Uncle Lin Yi. He's very good at sword cultivation." Zhui Yunfeng smiled, but obviously emphasized the word sword cultivation. Sword cultivation? Jian Wushuang understood why Zhui Yunfeng had called him over. "Greetings, Uncle Lin Yi," Jian Wushuang said, but could not really be bothered by him. His powers had not been fully restored, but his soul was not damaged. He could tell that Lin Yi was only a peak chaotic realm expert. Peak chaotic realm meant an average great emperor at the eternal chaotic world. First stage or third stage, now it meant all the same to Jian Wushuang. In the eternal chaotic world, only chaotic divine demons were worthy opponents. He did not care much about anyone below that. Compared to Lin Yi, his father Zhui Yunfeng was actually stronger. His father had already reached half-step divine demon, and would not take long to reach chaotic divine demon. "I have heard about the young lord born with the sword that descended from the sky. What an amazing fellow," Lin Yi said with a gentle smile on his face. Chapter 2300 Learning the sword. Don't be so polite, those are all exaggerated compliments. "This boy has been beside me for 8 years, I don't see anything special about him," Zhui Yunfeng laughed. Lin Yi smiled but paused to say, "Brother Yunfeng, I know why you have invited me today, but forgive me. The young lord was born by the sword, his name bestowed by the great Taoist priest Xian Shen. In terms of sword principle, I'm afraid no one in the entire Anzhou commandery can compare to him. How do I guide such a sword principle genius?" Lin Yi was self-aware. He was decent at sword cultivation and sword principle and would have no problem teaching any ordinary boy, but teaching a sword principle genius, or a monster, would not be very realistic. "Haha, you're too humble, brother Lin Yi. Your understanding of sword principle is amongst the top 30 in Anzhou commandery. No matter how talented Shuang is, he's only a boy. Having you as his guide will be more than enough. I only need you to lead him to the gates of sword principle. After that, I'll think of a way to get him to train at some ancient sects," Zhui Yunfeng said. "I see," Lin Yi understood. He did not have the confidence to teach Jian Wushuang continuously. But if it was just to help Jian Wushuang, the boy who had yet made contact with sword principle, enter the threshold, he would not refuse such a simple request. "Brother Yunfeng, you said that the boy had no contact with sword principle?" Lin Yi asked. "Yap, and he's only 8 years old. His mother dotes on him a lot and restricted him from training until he was 10. I simply brought the training 2 years forward. In terms of sword principle, he's only watching others practice swordsmanship, he himself has never touched a sword," Zhui Yunfeng said. Jian Wushuang was laughing from the bottom of his heart. He had indeed not performed much swordsmanship over the past 8 years, but who said sword principle understanding needed one to possess a sword? Jian Wushuang could understand it from breaking a twig on the floor. Jian Wushuang even shook his head at the thought of Zhui Yunfeng getting Lin Yi to coach him. It was not that Jian Wushuang underestimated Lin Yi. Lin Yi was really just not good enough for Jian Wushuang. A peak chaotic realm whose sword principle could only make the top 30 within Anzhou Commandery. How strong could he be? Lin Yi himself had probably only entered the threshold of sword principle. Of course, Zhen Wushuang kept those thoughts to himself. How about this, brother Yunfeng? I'll demonstrate a swordsmanship skill, and get the boy to repeat it. We'll see how talented he is, Lin Yi said. Okay, Zhuo Yunfeng nodded. With a flick of his hand, Lin Yi was holding a normal longsword. It was a performance, after all, he only required a normal sword. Boy, are you ready? Lin Yi smiled and watched Zhen Wushuang. Shuang, watch closely, Zhuo Yunfeng instructed. Okay, I will, Zhen Wushuang responded quickly. Lin Yi started his performance. Wang tilde as the sword moved, a faint echo of a sword could be heard as the sword shadow cut across the void. It's Lin Clan's sword principal Bei Ming. Zhuo Yunfeng raised his eyebrow as he recognized the swordsmanship. A faint smile could be seen on his face. He knew that the sword principal Bei Ming Lin Yi was performing was the most appropriate one. It was too high level, and it was not considered simple. Using such swordsmanship to test a person's sword principal talent may have been too harsh on others, but Zhen Wushuang's fame demanded nothing less from him. Evidently, Lin Yi truly wanted to guide Zhen Wushuang. Within a moment, the swordsmanship was performed. There were 9 moves in the sword principal Bei Ming. It covered attacks and defense, a considerably comprehensive swordsmanship indeed. After he was done, Lin Yi looked over at Zhen Wushuang. Boy, you caught that? Yep, I did, Zhen Wushuang nodded. Do you understand it? Lin Yi asked. I do, Zhen Wushuang nodded. Lin Yi and Zhuo Yunfeng were elated. Zhen Wushuang was confident, and that raised their hopes. Come, boy, try doing the same. Lin Yi passed the sword to Zhen Wushuang. Shuang, follow what Uncle Lin Yi says, Zhuo Yunfeng instructed. Zhen Wushuang laughed awkwardly and took over the sword as he walked forward. Zhuo Yunfeng and Lin Yi stood side by side. Brother Lin Yi, how do you think he'll perform? Zhuo Yunfeng asked casually. I dare not say, but the boy looks confident. I think he'll understand at least 20% of the hidden secrets of the sword principal Bei Ming, Lin Yi said. 20%? So high. Zhuo Yunfeng was startled. All swordsmanship had hidden secrets within. Sword principal Bei Ming contained deeper, more profound mysteries than simple sword principles. If Zhen Wushuang could perform 20% of it, he would be considered an extraordinary genius. Brother Yunfeng, you underestimate the young lord. His name was bestowed by the Taoist priest Shen Shun himself. Unparalleled in sword principle. That's a name not everyone can own. 20% is if I'm being conservative. Perhaps even 30% or 40%, Lin Yi replied. Haha, I'm not expecting that much. Even 10% would make me content. If you could watch a performance once and understand even 10%, I'd hail that person as a genius. Zhuo Yunfeng smiled, his gaze full of expectation. At the training field, Zhen Wushuang was beginning to practice his swordsmanship. Chapter 2301 Disappoint Men hum. When Zhen Wushuang started to cast his sword skills, a soft hum could be heard. Zhuo Yunfeng and Lin Yi's eyes lit up as they were pleasantly surprised. Zhen Wushuang then practiced the sword principal Bei Ming that Lin Yi had just taught him one style at a time. When they saw the first style, Zhuo Yunfeng and Lin Yi had normal expressions. When they saw the second and third style, they started to frown. When he reached the fourth, fifth and other subsequent styles, their frowns got deeper. When all 9 styles of the sword principal Bei Ming had been cast by Zhen Wushuang, Zhuo Yunfeng and Lin Yi no longer had anticipatory looks. Their faces were dark. Father, Uncle Lin Yi, I have finished the drill. Zhen Wushuang walked up to Zhuo Yufeng and returned the sword to Lin Yi. Zhuo Yunfeng looked sharply at Zhen Wushuang before he said with a low voice, Wushuang, I thought you said you understood the sword skills that Uncle Lin Yi just showed you. Yes, I did. Zhen Wushuang nodded his head and replied. Bullshit. You only showed the form of this sword skill. There was no essence or complexity at all. And you say you understood. As long as the person is not an idiot, anyone could show the form in these 9 styles. This is the talent you have for the sword doctrine? Zhuo Yunfeng stared at Jian Wushuang with anger burning within his eyes. Jian Wushuang knitted his eyebrows. Lin Yi, who was standing to one side, spoke, "Brother Yunfeng, please don't blame your son. It might be my fault as I should not have used sword principle Beiming to test this little one. Brother Lin Yi, this has nothing to do with you. You did what you could. Sword principle Beiming is a good way to test his talent in the sword doctrine. It's just that this little one is too disappointing," Zhuo Yunfeng said. Lin Yi heard this and nodded his head. Indeed, he had been trying his best to get Jian Wushuang to learn about sword doctrine. Sword principle Beiming was the most suitable sword principle to test Jian Wushuang's talent. The results. Jian Wushuang was disappointing. When he saw how confident Jian Wushuang was and thought of how famous Jian Wushuang was, he thought Jian Wushuang would have been able to understand and showcase 20, 30, or even 40% of the essence. The results: it contained no essence when Jian Wushuang did the drill. It had the form but no substance. At this level, it did not match the expectations he had had for Jian Wushuang given how famous he was. Unrivaled in the sword doctrine. I heard that Taoist priest Shen Shun was the one who gave him the name. A divine sword even fell from the sky on the day he was born. It seemed like the things people said about him were false and the Taoist priest Shen Shun that everyone talked about was probably fake. His talent in the sword doctrine is not extraordinary. On the contrary, it is extremely ordinary. Lin Yi too was disappointed. He knew why Zhuo Yunfeng had invited him over. He was also looking forward to teaching a genius of the sword doctrine to start his journey. In the end, it was not going to happen. "Brat, go and practice the sword skills again. If there's still isn't any essence in your drill, I will break your legs," Zhuo Yunfeng yelled. "I have already shown you the sword skills that I understood. Even if I do it again, it will be the same," Jian Wushuang said calmly. "Bastard!" Zhuo Yunfeng was enraged. Lin Yi could not take it anymore and said, "Brother Yunfeng, your son might not have seen what the true sword skills really meant and cannot understand the true essence of the sword doctrine. There is no point forcing him to do this. How about this? We can just leave things as they are. We can find him some cultivators whose expertise is in sword doctrine to teach him the basics. I will come and visit again after a period of time." "Thank you very much, Brother Lin Yi," Zhuo Yunfeng said. "No problem. With this, I shall take my leave." Lin Yi turned and left. "I will send you off, Brother Lin Yi," Zhuo Yunfeng stood up and said. Jian Wushuang remained in the middle of the training field. He looked at Lin Yi's back view and shook his head. "Looks like I overestimated him. As a peak chaotic realm expert from the absolute beginning divine world and one of top 30 in his understanding of the sword doctrine in the Anzhou prefecture, I thought that he would at least be a beginner in the sword doctrine realm. He should have seen the true essence of the 9 styles I just practiced." The results, Jian Wushuang smiled bitterly. In reality, it was not that there was no essence in the drill that Jian Wushuang had just done. On the contrary, he had made the extremely complicated, complex 9 styles into simple, ordinary sword swings. However, these ordinary 9 styles were very powerful. It was a pity that Zhuo Yunfeng and Lin Yi could not see it. Even though Zhuo Yunfeng was a half-step divine demon, his expertise was in using his fists to beat foes. His expertise was not in the sword doctrine, hence it was normal that he could not see through the 9 moves Jian Wushuang had just done. Lin Yi also could not fully understand his drills. Jian Wushuang now knew that Lin Yi had yet to step foot into the true sword doctrine realm. If he had been in the sword doctrine realm, he could definitely have seen from Jian Wushuang's drill how extraordinary the 9 styles were. Someone who has yet to step foot into the sword doctrine realm wants to instruct me, who has already reached initial success and is close to the profound realm, in sword doctrine? Jian Wushuang felt odd. Zhuo Yunfeng returned to the training field soon after. "You brat, you really dragged my reputation today." Zhu Yunfeng roared in anger before coming into view. Jian Wushuang shrugged his shoulders. He was not afraid at all. Zhuo Yunfeng appeared behind Jian Wushuang. "Brat. Starting today, for the next 3 days, you will stay within your room and will not leave. Stay inside and reflect upon your actions. Zhuo Yunfeng stared at Zhen Wushuang. Even though he was scolding him with anger in his eyes, he was not delivering a harsh punishment. Zhuo Yunfeng was a person who would speak harshly to you but still love you more than ever. He looked like he was about to scold and hit Zhen Wushuang. In reality, in the 8 years since Zhen Wushuang had been born, he had never punished him before. Even though Zhuo Yufeng felt embarrassed and disappointed in Zhen Wushuang, he knew that talent in sword doctrine was something one was born with. Hence, he merely told Zhen Wushuang to go and reflect in his room. Zhen Wushuang would spend most of his time in his room on exploring and studying different types of books written on jade bamboo strips. To him, this was no punishment. Yes. Zhen Wushuang answered before going back to his room obediently. Chapter 2302. I am not going. Even though Zhuo Yufeng was disappointed in Zhen Wushuang and questioned Zhen Wushuang's talent in the sword doctrine, he did not give up. He invited 4 experts who cultivated the sword doctrine to teach Zhen Wushuang. Zhen Wushuang cooperated obediently. Even Lin Yi, who was an expert in peak chaotic realm and ranked in the top 30 in his understanding of the sword doctrine within the Anzhou prefecture, could not see how skilled Zhen Wushuang was. How could these ordinary experts in the chaotic realm see through it? They all thought that Zhen Wushuang had only just started learning how to use a sword. Zhen Wushuang would fool these experts and Zhuo Yunfeng by showing how much he improved every now and then. Zhen Wushuang lived and regained his power in peace. Time flew. In the blink of an eye, 2 years passed. Zhen Wushuang was 10 years old. Every century, the Misty Rain Sword Pavilion will recruit disciples. Wushuang, this is a perfect chance for you to become a powerful expert. I have already arranged for you to go and try out the recruitment test with a few other young disciples from the Lin family, Zhuo Yunfeng said. Misty Rain Sword Pavilion? Zhen Wushuang raised his gaze. Over the 10 years since he had been reborn in the absolute beginning divine world, Zhen Wushuang would read the news to know more about the domain he was living in. Zhen Wushuang knew about the Misty Rain Sword Pavilion. The Misty Rain Sword Pavilion had been created by an extremely powerful chaotic divine demon who excelled at the sword doctrine 100,000 years ago. Initially, it had been a small pavilion. When the creator broke through into a whole new power level, the Misty Rain Sword Pavilion also became a top-tier clan that was located around the Anzhou prefecture. It was extremely well known even in the Wuxia Barren region. To any cultivators who practiced the sword doctrine, the Misty Rain Sword Pavilion would definitely be a good choice if they decided to go there. Father, I do not want to go to the Misty Rain Sword Pavilion. Zhen Wushuang rejected his father's suggestion. All Zhen Wushuang was thinking of now was to stay here and recover his power peacefully. When he finally got back to his prime, he could venture out and join a clan of choice. Even if he were to join a clan, it would not be Misty Rain Sword Pavilion. It was not that Zhen Wushuang looked down on the Misty Rain Sword Pavilion on purpose. Once he got back his prime power, he would be a chaotic divine demon. Furthermore, he was a perfect chaotic lifeform, hence his fighting power would easily be top tier amongst the chaotic divine demons. Misty Rain Sword Pavilion did not have the ability to guide him. He felt that the Wuxia Barren region was too small a place for him. Zhen Wushuang had already made plans for himself. However, when Zhuo Yunfeng heard what he said, he glared at Zhen Wushuang and questioned, "Brat, what did you say?" "I said, I am not going to join the Misty Rain Sword Pavilion." Zhen Wushuang said. You, Zhuo Yunfeng was enraged. He pointed at Zhen Wushuang and roared, "Brat, do you know what the Misty Rain Pavilion is like? That place is a clan that focuses on the study of sword doctrine. There are numerous experts inside. The number of chaotic realm and divine demon experts that are there are like the number of strands of hair on a cow. There may even be an expert in a realm higher than a divine demon. This is a good learning opportunity for you, and now you're telling me that you will not go there. All of the geniuses in the sword doctrine in the Wuxia Barren region desire to enter the Misty Rain Sword Pavilion to cultivate. Now you have the chance to do so. You are telling me that you will not go? Other people might want to go there, but I am not interested, Zhen Wushuang said directly. Bastard! Are you trying to make me mad? Rage burned within Zhuo Yunfeng's eyes. He quickly contained his anger before he said in a sincere and earnest tone, "Wushuang, I told you before that this world is not as calm and peaceful as you think. On the contrary, the absolute beginning divine world is filled with danger. You are only 12 years old. You may not feel it now as you have been by your parents' side since the day you are born. One day, we will leave you. At that point in time, only you will be able to help and protect yourself. You will need power to do that. Power is the key to survival in this world. Wherever you go, people will only respect the powerful, just like your older sister and brother. They understand this. This is why your sister left 100 over years ago, when she was 14, and entered a clan to cultivate. She will return once in a while. The last time she returned around 20 years ago, she was already at the chaotic realm. You have not met your older sister before, so let us talk about your older brother, Peng. Soon after you were born, he joined a clan to get stronger so that he could protect himself in the future. Yunfeng thought that Zhen Wushuang was young and did not understand how dangerous the world was. He was trying to educate Zhen Wushuang. Zhen Wushuang heard this and was speechless. Before Zhuo Yunfeng could finish speaking, Zhen Wushuang interrupted and said, "Father, I understand what you are saying. However, I really do not want to go to the Misty Rain Sword Pavilion. I just want to stay at home quietly. Won't it be the same as those 4 uncles who teach me about the sword doctrine every day?" Of course it is not the same. The 4 uncles are only in the chaotic realm. They are not proficient in their sword skills compared to the experts from the Misty Rain Sword Pavilion. Father, no matter what you say, I will not go to the Misty Rain Sword Pavilion. Zhen Wushuang pursed his lips and said. What a defiant child. Zhuo Yunfeng was enraged. Luo Xinqin, who was sitting to one side, said, "Husband, since Wushuang does not want to go to the Misty Rain Pavilion, let him be. After all, he is still so young. Why not let him join a clan after a few years when he is as old as Peng was when he left? That is not a good idea. Wushuang is extremely talented. The more talented you are, the earlier you should start cultivating under the guidance of powerful experts. This will allow one to get even more powerful in the future." Zhuo Yunfeng said. "Now that Wushuang is not willing to go, what can you do? Are you going to force Wushuang to do the recruitment test?" Luo Xinqin glared at Zhuo Yunfeng. Zhen Wushuang then muttered quietly, "Even if you force me to go, I will not take the recruitment test seriously. I will not get accepted." Hearing this, Zhuo Yunfeng laughed bitterly and felt helpless. Chapter 2303 Lin family. Zhuo Yunfeng gave up trying to get him to join the Misty Rain Sword Pavilion after multiple rejections from Zhen Wushuang and with Luo Xinqin's protection. However, Zhuo Yunfeng did not give up on trying to get Zhen Wushuang to join a clan to get the best teachers. He felt that Zhen Wushuang would only get the best training if he entered a clan. No matter which clan he introduced to Zhen Wushuang, he would be rejected firmly. Zhuo Yunfeng felt extremely helpless. He scolded Zhen Wushuang many times on how he had never made any effort to improve. Zhen Wushuang ignored all of the scoldings. Time passed quickly and soon, Zhen Wushuang was 12 and he was still living in the governor's palace within Incineration Moon City. Zhen Wushuang was 12 years and 6 months old. It was wintertime and snow was falling from the sky like the feathers of a bird. The entire Incineration Moon City was covered in a lining of white. Within the governor's palace, Zhen Wushuang sat under a tree, holding a jade bamboo strip in his hands. A sword skill had been recorded on the jade bamboo strip. This sword skill was not difficult, but it was also not easy. Zhen Wushuang had been studying this sword skill for around 3 months. Zhen Wushuang finally put down the jade bamboo strip. After 3 months, I finally understand this sword skill. It is a pity that this sword skill is too low level. Even though it contains spacetime rules of order, it is far too little. It does not help me in my understanding of the spacetime rules of order. Zhen Wushuang sighed lightly. Over the past few years, Zhen Wushuang had stopped studying the events and myths of the absolute beginning divine world. He had been studying secret skills and honing his sword skills. Zhuo Yunfeng was in the half-step divine demon realm. He was considered a powerful expert within the Anzhou prefecture. After all, there were not many divine demons within the Anzhou prefecture. On top of that, Zhui Yunfeng was the governor of a city and had good relations with the Lin family. Their foundation was solid as there were several types of secret skills and sword skills within the governor's palace. During the past few years, Zhen Wushuang had already browsed and studied all of the secret skills and martial art skills. The sword skill that Zhen Wushuang had just put down was one of the sword skills he was interested in. 12 years. I still need some time before I can get back to my prime. As for my understanding of the sword doctrine and rules of order, I have improved. However, this speed is far too slow. If I have sword skills of an even higher level for me to study or meditate on, I will improve faster, Zhen Wushuang muttered. The quiet governor's palace suddenly became noisy. Many footsteps could be heard from the front yard. Many of the maids and servants were rushing out. Xiao Man. Zhen Wushuang stopped one of the maids who was rushing out. Prince. The maid stopped and greeted Zhen Wushuang. What is happening? Where are all of you rushing? Zhen Wushuang asked. Prince. We received a message from the master that an important guest is here. Master is already on his way. He told us to prepare as well, the maid replied. An important guest? Who is it? Zhen Wushuang asked curiously. It seems like the head of the Lin family is here, the maid replied. Head of the Lin family? Zhen Wushuang nodded his head and understood why there was a ruckus. Anzhou Prefecture was just one of the many prefectures within the Wuxia Baron region. Even though it was only a single prefecture, it was gigantic. The size was about the same as the Green Fire World. Within the Anzhou Prefecture, the most powerful was the governor of the prefecture, who was also a top-tier divine demon. Below the governor, there would be 6 top-tier families within the Anzhou Prefecture. Each of these families was like an overlord within the Anzhou Prefecture. Each family would have around 2 or 3 divine demons. The most powerful 2 families now had 4. The Lin family was one of the 6 top-tier families. As the head of the Lin family, he was the main pillar of support and was definitely an important figure. He was much more powerful than a small city governor like Zhu Yunfeng. The reason why the head of the Lin family was there at the governor's palace of the Incineration Moon City was because of Zhen Wushuang's father, Zhui Yunfeng. They were extremely good friends. Back when the head of the Lin family had still been in the chaotic realm, he had ventured out together with Zhui Yunfeng. They were brothers who had experienced life and death situations together. Hence, Zhui Yunfeng was on very good terms with the Lin family. It is my father's 1600th birthday tomorrow. The head of the Lin family must be here to celebrate the birthday with him. Zhen Wushuang could guess the reason why the head of the Lin family was here. The Lin family and Zhui Yunfeng were brothers who went through thick and thin together. Every time something good occurred within Zhui Yunfeng's home, the head of the Lin family would send over a generous gift. For example, when Zhen Wushuang was born, the head of the Lin family had sent a very generous gift. The head of the Lin family had been free around this time and came down to attend Zhui Yunfeng's birthday celebration personally. Birthday. Back in the eternal chaotic world, everyone lives for a very long time and hence people tend to forget their birthday. In the absolute beginning divine world, a cultivator will celebrate his birthday once every 100 years. Zhen Wushuang smiled to himself. As the head of the Lin family was there, his parents and the entire governor's palace treated this seriously. He did not care. He whipped out another jade bamboo strip and started reading. A figure in green clothes walked in from outside the garden. Zhen Wushuang looked up at the figure. It was a teenage boy who was around 14 or 15 years old. He wore expensive clothes and looked naive. When the teenage boy stepped into the garden, he instantly spotted Zhen Wushuang, who was sitting under a tree. Hi, little one. Where is Prince Zhen Wushuang? The teenage boy in green clothes asked directly. Zhen Wushuang smiled bitterly. Back in the eternal chaotic world, he had lived for nearly 100,000 years and people had called him an old monster. However, the teenage boy was around 14 years old. Even Zhui Yunfeng, who had lived for 1,600 years, was far younger than Zhen Wushuang. And this teenage boy was calling him little one? Zhen Wushuang took a deep breath and replied without looking at the teenage boy, "Are you looking for something?" "Of course. I heard that he was born because of swords. When he was born, A divine sword came down from the heavens. I am also an expert of the sword doctrine and am unconvinced of how talented he is. Since I have finally received a chance to come to Incineration Moon City, I want to duel with him, the teenage boy in green clothes said. Chapter 2304 Duel. Jian Wushuang smiled bitterly. Little one, if I am not wrong, you are Jian Wushuang. The teenage boy stared at Jian Wushuang and said. Yes, I am. Jian Wushuang nodded his head and said. Haha. That is great. Jian Wushuang, I am Lin Yang. I hereby challenge you. Come, fight me. Lin Yang said as he took out a sword. Jian Wushuang was not interested in this battle even though Lin Yang was hyped up about it. Sorry, I reject your challenge. Jian Wushuang shook his head and said. Reject? Haha. You won't be able to reject my challenge. Watch out. Lin Yang smiled in an eerie way. Lin Yang attacked. A sword light lit up as the snow seemed to stop falling. Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows. He would not feel threatened by Lin Yang no matter what he did. However, he was surprised when he saw the sword skill that Lin Yang used. He could see that the sword skill was of a high level, much higher than the sword skill he had been studying previously. It was a pity that such an incredible skill had such a poor effect when Lin Yang used it. Jian Wushuang sat on a stone bench. He simply moved to the side and dodged the sword easily. Oh! Did you dodge it? Again, Lin Yang's eyes lit up in excitement. Lin Yang started to cast another attack. Lin Yang, what are you doing? A deep voice was heard as Lin Yang stopped what he was doing. Jian Wushuang looked over at the entrance of the garden. He saw a fierce middle-aged man in silver clothes walking in alongside Zhuo Yunfeng and Luo Xinqin. This middle-aged man in silver clothes was the head of the Lin family, Lin Taifeng. Father. Lin Yang became obedient when he saw his father. What is happening? Lin Taifeng placed his hands behind his back and looked over. Zhuo Yunfeng and Luo Xinqin were also wondering what was going on. Nothing much. I heard that Uncle Zhuo's son is Jian Wushuang, and that he excels in the sword doctrine. I am excited to have a duel with him, Lin Yang said. Is that the case? Lin Taifeng raised his eyebrows. Haha. Nephew is only 2 years older than Wushuang and they are peers. It would be normal for them to have a duel. Zhuo Yunfeng smiled. So how did the duel go? Lin Taifeng asked. We had only just started our duel when you came in. Lin Yang then turned to Jian Wushuang and said, Jian Wushuang, now both of our fathers are here. Fight me head on. I want to see if you are really talented. Lin Taifeng, Zhuo Yunfeng and the others smiled at this and they did not seem like they intended to step in. Zhuo Yunfeng was hoping that Lin Yang would fight Jian Wushuang to teach him a lesson. If you were weak, you would be bullied and there would be nothing you could do about it. This could serve as a wake-up call so that Jian Wushuang would no longer reject his offers of going to a clan to cultivate. Jian Wushuang saw everyone's expressions and smiled. Okay. I will have a duel with you. However, it will be too boring if it is a normal duel. Let us add a bet. You want to make a bet? Sure, what do you want to stake? Lin Yang was excited. Simple, I want the sword skill that you just cast, Jian Wushuang said directly. My sword skill? That sword skill is sword principle snow tsongulation. Only certain core disciples within the Lin family can learn it. No outsiders are allowed to learn this, Lin Yang frowned and said. Lin Taifeng smiled, Brother Yunfeng is a brother to me. Wushuang is not an outsider. He can learn the sword principle snow tsongulation. Hearing this, Lin Yang nodded his head, all right. My father has agreed to let you learn it. If you lose, I do not need sword skills from you. How about this? You will stay with me for a year and become my sword boy. A sword boy was a servant dedicated to another to refine their sword skills. Lin Yang was the son of the head of the Lin family. He had his own personal sword boys at home. However, how could they compare to Jian Wushuang? Lin Yang got extremely excited thinking of the idea that the famous Jian Wushuang would become his sword boy. Lin Taifeng knitted his eyebrows tightly and said, Lin Yang, don't be disrespectful. He was thinking that if the son of his brother became his own son's sword boy, things would get complicated. Okay, Jian Wushuang said this. Ling Taifeng was shocked. Zhuo Yunfeng and Luo Xinqin also raised their eyebrows. They had never thought that Jian Wushuang would agree. Didn't that mean that Jian Wushuang would become a sword boy if he lost? Where does this little one get his confidence from? Lin Yang is incredibly talented in the sword doctrine, and he is 2 years older than Wushuang. Zhuo Yunfeng knitted his eyebrows and said, "Husband." Luo Xinqin looked over. "Don't panic. Let's watch." Zhuo Yunfeng signaled Luo Qinxin. Lin Taifeng also noticed the change of mood in Zhuo Yunfeng and Luo Qinxin. He said, "Brother Yunfeng, Lin Yang is just messing around. Please do not take it seriously. If I am not wrong, seeing how confident Wushuang is, I am afraid that the sword principal Snow Tsongalation will become his." Lin Taifeng was speaking the truth. He had heard of Jian Wushuang before. He knew that Jian Wushuang was extremely talented in the sword doctrine. Even though Lin Yang was 2 years older than Jian Wushuang, he had no confidence in his own son. Hearing this, Zhuo Yunfeng smiled bitterly. Brother Lin might not know of this, but actually, Wushuang is not as talented as the outside world has claimed. Wushuang is talented at sword doctrine, but he is definitely not as powerful as Lin Yang. Oh! Lin Taifeng was stunned. Brother Lin Yi knows about this as well. You can ask him, Zhuo Yunfeng said. Lin Yi. Lin Taifeng waved his hand and Lin Yi walked up to him. Clan Master, City Governor Zhuo is speaking the truth. He asked to guide the little one on the path of the sword doctrine 4 years ago. I agreed and came here to test how talented he is in the sword doctrine. He is not very talented. During the test, he also seemed very confident, Lin Yi said. Really? Jian Wushuang's name was given to him by Taoist priest Shen Shen himself. There shouldn't have been any mistake. It doesn't matter anymore. Let's watch them, Lin Taifeng said. Chapter 2305. The Defy. Under the gaze of the Zhuo Yunfeng couple, Lin Taifeng and the rest, Jian Wushuang and Lin Yang walked to the center of the garden. When they reached the center of the garden, Lin Yang held his sword up and told Jian Wushuang, "Draw your sword." Sword? Jian Wushuang smiled. Everyone was confused when they saw him walk over to the tree at the side and pick up a tree branch about 30 centimeters long. "This is my sword," Jian Wushuang waved at Lin Yang and said. "Jian Wushuang, are you trying to humiliate me?" Lin Yang exploded with rage. The spectators knitted their eyebrows in confusion. They thought that Jian Wushuang was being arrogant. Even if Jian Wushuang had a terrifying talent in the sword doctrine, he had been tested for it and he was facing a child who was 2 years older than him. How could he beat him with just a branch? Wushuang is usually a thoughtful kid. Why is he doing all these nonsensical things when it comes to swordplay? Does he really want to become a sword boy? Luo Xinqin said. Humph. Who knows? I realized he has been under my protection all along and has never tasted failure before. If he loses to Lin Yang today, I will definitely send him over to the Lin family to become a sword boy, thought Zhuo Yunfeng as he clenched his fists tightly. Everyone thought that Jian Wushuang was being too arrogant and had underestimated Lin Yang. The only people who would not think so were those who knew who he really was. Jian Wushuang was an old monster who had lived for around 100,000 years. He would be making a joke of himself if he were to use the Blood Mountain sword in a duel with a kid around 14 years old. However, Jian Wushuang felt that he was bullying Lin Yang as by even using a branch. If he wanted to humiliate the Lin family, he could beat Lin Yang even without a branch. Humph. Since you want to become a sword boy so badly, I will fulfill your wishes. However, since I am 2 years older than you, I will be in a higher realm compared to you. To be fair, I will not use my divine power at all. We will only compete in terms of our sword skills, Lin Yang said through clenched teeth. That is no need for that. Just use all the power you have. That way, you will be convinced about your eventual defeat. You are in the early stage of transformed God realm. I have also reached this stage. Jian Wushuang smiled. As he said this, a wave of divine power surged from his body. Huh! Lin Yang was shocked. From the aura that was radiating from Jian Wushuang, he could sense that Jian Wushuang was as powerful as him. Early stage of transformed God realm? He has reached this stage and he is only 12? Lin Taifeng and Lin Yi looked over in surprise. Even Zhuo Yunfeng and Luo Xinqin were stunned. The type of cultivation done in the eternal chaotic world was different to in the absolute beginning divine world, hence the stages of cultivation were also named differently. Within the absolute beginning divine world, a cultivator would start as a practice god. In this realm, there were a total of 13 steps. Each step was a huge breakthrough. With how abundant spiritual energy was in the absolute beginning divine world, any genius could finish the 13 steps quickly. After practice God was transformed God. A transformed God was equal to a universe God back in the eternal chaotic world. A universe God would turn all of the spiritual energy he accumulated into pure divine power. This was the same in the transformed God realm. The only difference was that one had to pass the universe God trial to become a universe God, while there wasn't a trial to become a transformed God. What came after the transformed God realm was the pure sun realm, which was also the equivalent of a real God. After the pure sun realm was the chaotic realm, then the divine demon realm. The divine demon realm was also referred to as a chaotic divine demon. Under normal circumstances, a cultivator would become a transformed god by the time he turned 18. People like Lin Yang would be considered geniuses as he was a transformed god at the young age of 12. But now, Zhen Wushuang had also shown that he was in the early stage transformed god realm. Based on the aura, Zhen Wushuang's divine power seemed purer that of Lin Yang. Husband, do you know when Wushuang entered the transformed god realm? Luo Xinqin asked. Nope. This little one never reveals too much about himself. Even though I did take note of his cultivation base. Based on my judgment, I thought he was in the 10th or 11th step of the practice god realm. I never thought that he had become a transformed god. Zhuo Yunfeng shook his head and said. He was pleasantly surprised. Yes, he was pleasantly surprised. Even though he did not know how good Zhen Wushuang's sword skills were, at least his cultivation base was good. Humph, your cultivation base is not weak. It is a pity that we are competing with our sword skills. Lin Yang stared at Zhen Wushuang and said. Come, attack me as you like. Zhen Wushuang smiled casually. Lin Yang attacked without hesitation. He dashed forward and swung the sword he held in his hand. A cold sword light was seen as the snow froze in the air. He was still using sword principle snow tsongulation. He did not hold back anymore after finding out that Zhen Wushuang was not a weakling. Zhen Wushuang also moved when Lin Yang attacked. Hum. A soft hum was heard. The cold sword light was nowhere to be seen. The surrounding snow continued to fall to the ground. The entire garden was completely silent. Lin Yang's eyes widened in surprise. He stood there as a branch was pushed up against his chest. You lost. Zhen Wushuang smiled lightly. Silence. The entire garden was silent. Everyone was speechless. Even Lin Taifeng and the adults who stood around him were quiet. Lin Yi, your understanding of the sword doctrine is the deepest among us. Did you see what Zhen Wushuang did? Lin Taifeng asked with a deep voice. Lin Yi stuttered. He shook his head and before he finally said, No, I did not see what Zhen Wushuang did. What? Lin Taifeng and Zhuo Yunfeng were shocked again. Neither of them were experts in the sword doctrine. It was understandable that they could not see what Zhen Wushuang had done. On the other hand, Lin Yi specialized in the sword doctrine and his understanding of the sword doctrine should have been in the top 30 within the Anzhou prefecture. Even he did not know how Zhen Wushuang attacked. Chapter 2306. A duel with sword skill, are you kidding? Zhuo Yunfeng and Luo Xinqin looked at each other in disbelief. Impossible. Another roar was heard. Lin Yang took 2 steps back before he attacked again. This time, he used the strongest sword skill he had mastered. The sword light traveled very quickly and mercilessly as it targeted Zhen Wushuang. The sword light seemed as though it was about to tear Zhen Wushuang into 2. Watch closely. Lin Taifeng, Zhuo Yufeng, and the other adults used their soul powers to track Zhen Wushuang's movement. When Lin Yang attacked, Zhen Wushuang was ready. He took a step forward. Before Lin Yang could land his blow, the branch hit Lin Yang's wrist at lightning speed. A loud slap could be heard as Lin Yang felt a stinging pain in his wrist. His attack crumbled instantly as he dropped his sword to the ground. "You still want to continue the duel?" Jian Wushuang smiled at Lin Yang. Lin Yang was completely taken aback. Wow, the little one can see the flaw in Lin Yang's sword skills easily. Furthermore, he didn't even use any sword skills. He only used the most simple sword moves and he still defeated Lin Yang easily. A flash of excitement was seen in Lin Tifeng's eyes as he looked over at Lin Yi. "Lin Yi, can you easily defeat Lin Yang using a branch, without the use of sword skills?" Lin Yi was taken aback. He answered honestly, "If I can use sword skills, I will be able to defeat Lin Yang easily. If I don't use sword skills, I can still defeat Lin Yang, but I won't be able to do it as easily and smoothly as this little one did. Furthermore, there is no way I could detect a flaw in Lin Yang's sword skills, make a decision and strike so accurately. This also means that his understanding of the sword doctrine is deeper than yours." Lin Taifeng squinted his eyes and asked. Lin Yi fell silent. As much as he did not want to admit it, it did seem like Jian Wushuang's understanding of the sword doctrine surpassed his. "Humph, and you said so confidently that this little one had no talent in the sword doctrine? His talent is not as terrifying as the people outside claim it to be. And you said you personally tested his talent in the sword doctrine?" Lin Taifeng scolded. This, Lin Yi knitted his eyebrows. He did not reply. Instead, he walked up to Jian Wushuang. At that moment, the battle between Lin Yang and Jian Wushuang had stopped. Lin Yang was not stupid. After losing to Jian Wushuang twice, he knew that Jian Wushuang's sword skills were far superior to his. He would not attack a third time. That would make him seem like a sore loser. "Little one." Lin Yi came up to Jian Wushuang and asked in a deep voice, 4 years ago when I tested your talent in the sword doctrine, did you take my test seriously? Or did you hide your true power?" Lin Yi thought this was what had actually happened. He felt that it would be unbelievable if Jian Wushuang had a greater understanding of the sword doctrine than him at this young age. Jian Wushuang had to be insanely talented in the sword doctrine for that to be true. But with this talent, how was it possible that Lin Yi did not see any essence when Jian Wushuang practiced the sword principle Beiming 4 years ago? Hearing this, Jian Wushuang shook his head slowly and said, "No, I did the drill seriously." "Then why was there no essence in your drill? Is it because I made it too complicated and you could not understand initially?" Lin Yi asked curiously. "I understood it and did the drill properly. It was you who did not understand my drill," Jian Wushuang said. "I did not understand you drill?" Lin Yi was stunned before he asked, "What do you mean? Why don't I show it to you? We shall have a duel with sword skills right here, right now? I will use the sword principle Beiming that I learned 4 years ago. As for Uncle Lin Yi, you can use whatever sword skills you like," Jian Wushuang said indifferently and confidently. "You want to have a duel with me?" Lin Yi raised his eyebrows before he turned back and looked at Lin Taifeng. Lin Taifeng nodded his head in approval. "Okay. Little one, are you going to use a branch in this duel with me?" Lin Yi looked at Jian Wushuang as he drew his sword. "For me, anything can become a sword. The sword skills that I use when I hold a branch are not much weaker than when I use the same skill when I am holding an actual sword," Jian Wushuang smiled. "What an arrogant one. I want to see if you can really beat me with your branch." Lin Yi smiled. "Attack me." Jian Wushuang held his branch with one hand and placed the other behind his back. He stood there and waited calmly. "I am starting." Lin Yi dashed forward and appeared in front of Jian Wushuang. He swung his sword in an eerie manner as it headed for Jian Wushuang's throat. It was so fast that the spectators could only see a blurred shadow of the sword. "Husband." Luo Xinqin looked worried. She knew this strike was powerful and she was afraid that Jian Wushuang would get injured. "Don't worry. Brother Lin Yi knows his limits. He has suppressed his divine power and is only using the power at the level of the early stage transformed god. Jian Wushuang should be able to deflect this attack given his understanding of the sword doctrine," Zhuo Yunfeng said, trying to calm his wife down. Zhuo Yunfeng severely underestimated Jian Wushuang. When Lin Yi attacked, Zhen Wushuang moved as well. He smiled lightly. A soft hum that came from a sword could be heard. Zhen Wushuang swung the branch he held in his hands. This swing was extremely ordinary and seemed as though it did not contain any essence at all. From the sword momentum, it did seem like this sword skill was one of the styles from sword principle Beiming. This ordinary swing collided with the sword light from Lin Yi almost instantly. When the two blades struck each other, the long sword in Lin Yi's hands turned slightly from the force from the branch. What? Lin Yi was shocked. Lin Taifeng, Zhuo Yunfeng, and the others were in disbelief. Even though Lin Yi had suppressed his own divine power to the level that Zhen Wushuang was at, Lin Yi's strike should have been more powerful given that he was using an actual blade and not a tree branch. The results: Lin Yi was overpowered by Zhen Wushuang. The branch then went around the long sword before stopping on Lin Yi's chest. Chapter 2307 Initial Success in the Sword Doctrine Realm. Whoosh. Lin Yi took a few steps back after the branch collided with him before he steadied himself. After he regained his balance, he was stunned and speechless. I lost. Lin Taifeng, Zhuo Yunfeng, and the other spectators were in disbelief. An expert in the peak chaotic realm, whose understanding of the sword doctrine was in the top 30 within the whole of Anzhou Prefecture, had lost to a kid who was only 12 years old and who used a branch in a duel. He had lost after one move. He was completely suppressed and had no way to fight back. Lin Yi's thoughts were disrupted. He knew that the sword skill that Zhen Wushuang had just cast was indeed sword principle Beiming. However, the sword skill that Zhen Wushuang had just used contained no essence at all. It was an ordinary, dull strike. And it was this very ordinary and dull strike that had defeated him. How did this happen? Lin Yi was confused. Just then, Lin Tifeng's face turned serious as he said, "That little one. That sword skill was not ordinary. On the contrary, it was extremely exquisite and skilled. Even though it seems ordinary, it was extremely complex. It's just that Zhen Wushuang cast it in a clean and smooth way. Under normal circumstances, only those have reached a peak in their understanding of this sword principle Beiming could cast this sword skill in such a simple manner. Reach the peak. But Wushuang only saw brother Lin Yi demonstrate this sword skill once 4 years ago. Back then, it also seemed that it was ordinary and simple when Wushuang did the drill. He watched it once and he managed to fully understand this sword skill. Zhuo Yunfeng was surprised. It is highly likely. Ling Taifeng nodded his head. Lin Yi was completely speechless. It seemed like Zhen Wushuang had understood the sword principle Beiming 4 years ago and had done the drill perfectly. Because Wushuang's understanding of this sword skill was far above Lin Yi's, Lin Yi thought that Zhen Wushuang had not understood the essence of this sword skill. In reality, Wushuang's talent was far greater than he could ever imagine. Brother Zhuo, if I am not wrong, your son has stepped into the sword doctrine realm and is at least at the initial success stage, Lin Taifeng said. Initial success in the sword doctrine realm? Zhuo Yunfeng widened his eyes. Husband, Wushuang's understanding of the sword doctrine is so much deeper as compared to Lin Yi. He is only in the initial success stage of the sword doctrine realm? Luo Xinqin frowned as she asked. What do you think? The initial success in the sword doctrine realm that Brother Lin mentioned is the true sword doctrine realm. It is completely different from the normal sword doctrine everyone is talking about. With Brother Lin Yi's understanding of the sword doctrine, and being in the top 30 within the Anzhou Prefecture, he has yet to meet the criteria to break through into the sword doctrine realm. Zhuo Yunfeng looked over at Zhuo Xinqin and said in a serious tone. Even Lin Yi has yet to meet the criteria necessary to enter the sword doctrine realm? Luo Xinqin was stunned. She was only in the chaotic realm. She was unlike Zhuo Yunfeng and Lin Taifeng, who understood more about the division of power. Lin Yi, who she thought had a very good understanding of the sword doctrine, had yet to even meet the criteria to enter the sword doctrine realm. It is not easy to meet the criteria to enter the sword doctrine realm. There are countless experts in the sword doctrine within the Anzhou Prefecture. However, the number of these experts who are in the sword doctrine realm is limited, and Lin Yi is not one of them. As for initial success in the sword doctrine realm, It requires an even higher level of understanding of the sword doctrine compared to just meeting the criteria to enter the sword doctrine realm. As far as I know, there is only one person within the entire Anzhou prefecture who has reached this level. That man was the previous head of the Zhuge family, Zhuge Yun. He has decided to shut himself off from the world. Zhuge Yun. Isn't he a chaotic divine demon? Does this mean that Jian Wushuang's understanding of the sword doctrine is comparable to a chaotic divine demon's? Luo Xinqin was surprised. Yes. And most chaotic divine demons who use the sword might not even have as deep of an understanding of the sword doctrine as Jian Wushuang. Lin Taifeng nodded his head heavily. Hearing this, Zhuo Yunfeng and Luo Xinqin sucked in a cold breath. Jian Wushuang had stayed quietly beside them for 12 years. They only found out today that their son's understanding of the sword doctrine was at such a level. Unrivaled in the sword doctrine. Looks like the name that Taoist priest Shen Shen gave Jian Wushuang was correct. Jian Wushuang being at initial success in the sword doctrine realm at the age of 12 is really incredible. I have never heard of anyone else who has achieved this, Lin Taifeng exclaimed. This brat. We cannot let his talent in the sword doctrine go to waste. We should send him into those powerful clans where he can develop properly. Zhuo Yunfeng clenched his fists tightly and thought to himself. Jian Wushuang walked over with Lin Yi. Lin Yi was looking at Jian Wushuang as though he was a freak. Lin Yang, do not forget our bet. Jian Wushuang looked at Lin Yang and said. Lin Yang was already speechless. He had never thought that Jian Wushuang's understanding of the sword doctrine could be even deeper than that of Lin Yi. Was he really just a 12-year-old child? Lin Yang trembled slightly as he looked at his dad when he heard what Jian Wushuang said. Haha. Don't worry, little one. The people of the Lin family keep their words. If it is okay with you, you can even come with me back to the Lin clan. You can choose and read a wide variety of secret skills and martial art skills within our library. Lin Taifeng laughed heartily. Oh! Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows. Brother Lin, you cannot do that. There are numerous secret skills within your family's library. Those were obtained through the blood and sweat of your ancestors. How can my son just go in and do what he likes? It is already an honor for him to get the sword principal Snow Tsongulation from you, Zhuo Yunfeng said. Brother Zhuo. We are brothers. Furthermore, Wushuang is incredibly talented. If he is brought up well, he will be very successful in the future. I fear that the library in my house will be too small for my dear nephew, Lai Taifeng said. He was speaking the truth. Lin Taifeng was a chaotic divine demon and the head of the Lin family. He was like an overlord, but after seeing how talented Jian Wushuang was, even he was shocked and in disbelief. He knew that if he told the outside world what he had seen today, everyone would be shocked as well. Countless clans would fight over this kid who was so incredibly talented in the sword doctrine. The Lin family was only powerful within the prefecture. It was impossible for them to guide Jian Wushuang far. All he could do was try his best to help his dear nephew. Chapter 2308. Enter the Lin Mansion. Brother Lin. I thank you for your goodwill. However, Wushuang is a very stubborn boy. I tried my best to send him into a clan so that he could get the best teachers. He always rejects my offer. Now that you want him to go with you back to the Lin Mansion, Zhuo Yunfeng said. Okay. I will go to the Lin Mansion. Jian Wushuang interrupted Zhuo Yunfeng and said. What? Zhuo Yunfeng was stunned as he looked at Jian Wushuang in disbelief. This brat. He had never wanted to leave the incineration moon city. What had happened to him today? Had he changed his mind? Haha. That is great. Lin Taifeng was elated. The Lin family would be honored if a kid as talented as Jian Wushuang would stay at their mansion for even a short period of time. How about this? We will celebrate your father's birthday tomorrow and we will leave the day after. Lin Taifeng said. No problem. Jian Wushuang nodded his head. The reason Jian Wushuang had agreed to go to the Lin Mansion was not only because he could get access to the secret skills within their library, but he could also come back and visit anytime he wanted to. He would not be able to do so if he joined a clan as there were many restrictions. Just like his older brother Zhuo Peng and his eldest sister, who he had never met before, they would only come back once in a while. However, he could leave the Lin Mansion whenever he wanted to. Furthermore, the Lin Mansion was closely located to the incineration Moon City. Seeing that Jian Wushuang agreed so readily, Zhuo Yunfeng was also happy. He was happy that Jian Wushuang was leaving home. Now that he was going to the Lin Mansion. Even though the Lin Mansion was not as well known as some other clans, it was a big family and there was a system in place to train and develop disciples. It also had a lot of resources necessary for cultivation. Zhuo Yunfeng believed that Jian Wushuang would not be treated unfairly given his close relations with Lin Tifiang. Jian Wushuang would be able to train and cultivate in a better environment. Everyone started preparing for Zhuo Yunfeng's birthday celebration. The birthday celebration went smoothly and everyone was extremely happy. After the birthday celebration, Jian Wushuang left with Lin Taifeng for the Lin Mansion. Lin Mansion. The Lin family was one of the 6 top-tier families and had an extremely solid foundation. The Lin Mansion occupied thousands of square feet and it looked very majestic. Jian Wushuang entered the Lin Mansion under the guidance of Lin Taifeng. Lin Taifeng gave the order that Jian Wushuang could go enter the secret skill pavilion as he liked and could study any martial arts skills or secret skills he wanted. Furthermore, they were planning to give Jian Wushuang 3 times the amount of resources that their core disciple had. A core disciple in the transformed God realm would get 1 God transformation elixir, but Jian Wushuang would get 3. There was a ruckus within the Lin Mansion when everyone found out the treatment Jian Wushuang was getting. Jian Wushuang lived in a well-designed house which only an important guest could stay in. Jian Wushuang sat on a stone bench at the center of the garden with a jade bamboo strip in his hands. The contents of the jade bamboo strip was a copy of one of the secret skills that Jian Wushuang had seen in the secret skill pavilion. It was Sword Principal Snow Tsongalation. This sword skill can make even snow freeze in the air. There is a trace of space-time rules of order within this sword skill. Jian Wushuang smiled. The space-time rules of order was extremely complex and complicated. If one mastered this sword skill and had a good understanding of the space-time rules of order, everything in this world would freeze in place when this sword skill was used. This was an incredible sword skill. Even though this sword skill is good, I do not have the ability to learn it yet. However, I can learn many things just by studying it and applying it to the time-space sword principle. Jian Wushuang started to focus on the content on the jade bamboo strip. Before long, Brother Wushuang. A loud voice was heard as 2 figures stepped into the garden. Jian Wushuang looked up. One of the 2 was Lin Yang. After Jian Wushuang had defeated Lin Yang a few days ago by using purely his sword skills, Lin Yang had no longer been arrogant and had stopped trying to compete with Jian Wushuang. Lin Yang was a straightforward man. After getting close to Jian Wushuang, he had started to treat Jian Wushuang as a brother. There was a young girl standing behind Lin Yang. She was around 12 or 13 years old. She looked pale and yellow and seemed delicate. Without a doubt, she was pretty. Prince Yang, is something up? Jian Wushuang asked, his eyes fixed on the jade bamboo strip in his hands. Haha. Today is the day that the Lin Mansion gives out elixirs. I know that you will drown yourself in studying the sword doctrine, hence I have brought over the 3 God transformation elixir for you. Lian Yang opened his palm and Jian Wushuang saw 3 light purple elixirs. God transformation elixir? Jian Wushuang smiled lightly. To any expert in the transformed God realm, this elixir would be extremely useful as it would make it easier for them to accumulate divine power. However, Jian Wushuang had reincarnated. He was already at the level of a chaotic divine demon. All he had to do was accumulate divine power. The God transformation elixir was not very useful for him. After all, he was a perfect chaotic life form. The amount of spiritual influence of heaven and earth he required for each stage of his cultivation was far too much. Furthermore, the speed at which he absorbed the spiritual influence of heaven and earth was insanely fast. He could absorb equal amounts of divine power within the 3 God transformation elixir within 1 day. This elixir was almost useless for him. You wouldn't be so nice unless you have something to ask me, so what do you want me to do for you? Jian Wushuang looked at Lin Yang and said, "Haha. You saw through my plan." Lin Yang gave an awkward smile. He pulled over the young girl and said, "Brother Wushuang, this is my cousin. She is about the same age as you and practices the sword doctrine. She is facing difficulty in one of the sword skills she is practicing, hence, you want me to guide her?" Jian Wushuang looked over and sighed. "Yes." Lin Yang nodded his head before he said to Lin Qingqing, "Cousin, tell Brother Wushuang about the problems you face. He can definitely solve them for you." Lin Qingqing knitted her eyebrows. She did not say anything and looked at Jian Wushuang with suspicion. Jian Wushuang was around the same age as her. How could one blame her for suspecting whether or not Jian Wushuang had the ability to guide her in her sword skills? Furthermore, even the experts in the Pure Sun realm and Chaotic realm within the Lin Mansion could not solve her problem. Chapter 2309. Guidance. Jian Wushuang noticed that Lin Qingqing was questioning his ability. Jian Wushuang did not mind and said, "Which sword skill does she have problems with?" "Hazy Sword Principle," Lin Yang said. "Do you have a copy of the Hazy Sword Principle?" Jian Wushuang asked. "Yes." Lin Yang brought out a jade bamboo strip. Jian Wushuang took the jade bamboo strip and started reading it. Lin Yang and Lin Qingqing stood to the side and waited. "Brother Yang, he is the person you talked about that can solve the problem I face in my sword skills?" Lin Qingqing asked softly. "Yes, it's him. Do not underestimate him. Even though he is young, his understanding of the sword doctrine is incredible. If anyone in the Lin Mansion can solve this problem, it will be him." Lin Yang smiled. "Really?" Lin Qingqing was still suspicious. Lin Yang smiled and did not continue to explain himself. The people of the Lin Mansion knew who Jian Wushuang was, but only Lin Taifeng, Lin Yi, and Lin Yang knew what he was capable of. Lin Yang knew that there shouldn't be anyone in the Anzhou prefecture who could compete with Jian Wushuang in their understanding of the sword doctrine, much less someone from the Lin Mansion. If even Jian Wushuang could not solve the problem Lin Qingqing had, there shouldn't be anyone in the Lin Mansion who could solve it. After half an hour, Jian Wushuang finally put down the jade bamboo strip. "Show me your sword skills," Jian Wushuang said. "Go, Qingqing," Lin Yang said. Even though Lin Qingqing was suspicious of Jian Wushuang, she still listened to Lin Yang and started doing a drill of the Hazy Sword Principle. Jian Wushuang smiled as he saw each style of the sword skill being performed by Lin Qingqing. Before long, Lin Qingqing finished the drill. She seemed more pale than ever and even started coughing slightly. "Brother Wushuang, do you know what is wrong?" Lin Yang asked. "Yes. It is simple. She is not fit to cultivate this sword skill," Jian Wushuang said upfront. "Uncle Lin Yi told me this before. Looks like I have to give up on this sword skill and learn other sword skills." Lin Qingqing looked at Jian Wushuang and shook her head. It was obvious that she was trembling. She had been practicing the Hazy Sword Principle for 2 years and had put in hard work to reach where she was today. Of course she would be greatly affected when she had to give it up. Jian Wushuang then smiled again. "Actually, there is a way for you to not give up on this sword skill." "Huh?" Lin Qingqing looked over at Jian Wushuang, surprised. "Brother Wushuang, stop keeping us in suspense. What is the solution?" Lin Yang asked. "The reason why the Hazy Sword Principle is not suitable for her is because 3 of the styles in this sword skills are too overbearing and deadly, which causes waves of violent aura. Your cousin is a delicate young girl. She has yet to toughen up and hone herself in the outside world. After she grows up and ventures out, she will be able to control the violent aura when she becomes a more resolute lady. Then she will be able to use this sword skill without any repercussions. Of course, she cannot do that now. All she needs to do is to stop practicing those 3 styles within the sword skill, then she will be alright. That is it." Lin Yang understood Jian Wushuang's explanation. Lin Qingqing was still suspicious of Jian Wushuang. "Brother Wushuang, which 3 styles contain the violent auras?" Lin Yang then asked. "The 4th, 9th and 13th style," Jian Wushuang said. "Qingqing, follow what Brother Wushuang said. Do a drill of the hazy sword principle but leave out those 3 styles, Lin Yang said. Ling Qingqing followed her cousin's instructions. But this time, she skipped the 3 styles Zhen Wushuang talked about. Soon, she finished the drill and stood there, shocked. She realized she was not hurt after leaving out those 3 styles. Were my problems really caused by those 3 styles? Ling Qingqing stared at Zhen Wushuang and asked. Zhen Wushuang then smiled and said, now the problem is solved. Ha ha. Thanks a lot, brother Wushuang. Lin Yang was overjoyed. Thank you older bro. Lin Qingqing also thanked Zhen Wushuang but she did not finish her sentence. She wanted to call Zhen Wushuang her older brother, but then she realized Zhen Wushuang was younger than her. No problem. Just call him older brother. If he doesn't mind, even I will call him older brother. Lin Yang laughed. Zhen Wushuang smiled and waved at both of them. The 2 of them left. Zhen Wushuang dove right back into studying the sword skill he was holding. News of this incident soon spread among the higher-ups in the Lin mansion. The experts in the sword doctrine were stunned. Many of them had known of the problem Lin Qingqing had, but none of them had had any way to solve it. All they could do was to tell her to change to another sword skill. However, a 12-year-old kid had solved it. After they asked around, they were even more shocked when they knew that the 12-year-old kid was the famous Zhen Wushuang. Many of these experts went to find Zhen Wushuang for a duel. The results were even more shocking. Even though Zhen Wushuang was young, his understanding of the sword doctrine was beyond their wildest expectations. Li Yi had the deepest understanding of the sword doctrine, and he was nowhere near Zhen Wushuang's level. After these experts who cultivated the sword doctrine found out how incredible Zhen Wushuang was, many of them put down their pride and asked Zhen Wushuang for guidance. Zhen Wushuang did not reject them. He was a guest in the Lin mansion. The Lin mansion treated him well by allowing him to browse any secret skills or martial art skills that could be found within their library. These skills were very beneficial for Zhen Wushuang. Zhen Wushuang guiding these experts in the sword doctrine was his way of repaying the Lin family. Chapter 23 10 Snow Cleave Time passed in the blink of an eye. Zhen Wushuang had been staying in the Lin mansion for 3 months. In the house that Zhen Wushuang was staying in. Just as Lin Yang was about to enter the garden, 2 people walked out from inside. They were 2 experts in the chaotic realm. They were chatting as they walked. I had never thought that there could be an expert in the Lin mansion who would have such an incredible understanding of the sword doctrine. What is more amazing is that he is a child aged 12. Little friend Wushuang is really incredible. His talent in the sword doctrine is unmatched. Taoist priest Shen Shen is amazing. With this level of talent, he should be given 10 times the amount of resources of a core disciple. The 2 of them chatted casually. Lin Yang could hear what they were saying clearly. Both of you. Lin Yang smiled. Prince Yang. The 2 experts in the chaotic realm looked over and greeted. Did both of you seek Brother Wushuang's guidance in the sword doctrine? Lin Yang asked. Yes. Both of us have learnt a lot from him, one of the experts said. Yes, a lot. The other man nodded his head in approval. Brother Wushuang is a guest here at the Lin mansion. He also needs to focus on his own cultivation. You can come and ask him once in a while, but please don't come and bother him consistently, Lin Yang said. Of course. We have already benefited greatly from a single session. How could we be greedy and want more? The 2 experts in the chaotic realm said. That's right. Carry on. Lin Yang waved his hands and the 2 experts in the chaotic realm left the place. Lin Yang then entered the garden that Zhen Wushuang lived in. After he reached the garden, he saw Lin Yi. Zhen Wushuang stood in the middle of the garden with his eyes closed. He held an ordinary sword in his hands. Uncle Lin Yi, what is Brother Wushuang doing? Lin Yi asked softly. Looks like he is going to practice with a sword. Practice? Lin Yang raised his eyebrows. He realized that even though Zhen Wushuang had been there for 3 months, he had only studied sword skills. He had never practiced at all. This was the first time Lin Yang had seen Zhen Wushuang use a sword for practice. Lin Yang stood to the side quietly as he did not want to disturb Zhen Wushuang. Spring was about to come, and this was the last snow this winter. Snowflakes filled the entire sky as they fell to the ground slowly. The floor of the entire garden was already covered with snow. Jian Wushuang held a sword with one hand and stood at the center of the garden. He opened his eyes all of a sudden. Killing intent could be seen clearly in his eyes. The sword in his hand moved. He thrusted the sword out like a beam of light. It seemed like an ordinary thrust. However, ripples could be seen in the surrounding space. It was as though the space bent because it was so affected by the sword essence. In reality, it was not space which bent. It was space-time. Before the thrust landed, Jian Wushuang swung his blade out in a horizontal swing. This horizontal swing was the sword skill that Jian Wushuang was trying to cast. A sword light could be seen at the corner of his eyes. It was beautiful and stunning. People could lose themselves within it. Even though the sword light seemed extremely small, it filled the entire garden, including the space right in front of Jian Wushuang. As the sword light dimmed, peace returned to the garden. Jian Wushuang sheathed his sword. What sword skill was that? I am completely lost. Lin Yang knitted his eyebrows. He could not understand the essence of the sword skill that Jian Wushuang had just done. However, he could feel how terrifying the move was. Uncle Lin Yi, do you understand what just happened? Lin Yang looked over and Lin Yi and asked. I could not understand it completely, but I realized something, Lin Yi said. What did you realize? Lin Yang asked. Have you not realized that the amount of snowflakes around our dear friend Wushuang has become more dense? Lin Yi said. Oh yes, that's true. What happened? Lin Yi asked curiously. If I am not wrong, Wushuang sliced all of the snowflakes falling from the sky in half. This created the illusion that the snowflakes on the ground became denser. The sword light is incredibly powerful, and the snowflake is extremely frail. It will melt easily. However, he managed to slice all of the snowflakes in half without melting them. How incredible is his control of the sword essence and power of that sword skill. He is that incredible. Lin Yang widened his eyes in shock. That sword swing, that swing. Lin Yi clenched his fists and closed his eyes as the scene where the snowflakes were sliced in half played repeatedly in his mind. Uncle Lin Yi, what happened to you? Lin Yang asked. Do not disturb him, Jian Wushuang said as he walked over. It seems like he has managed to learn and understand something new. Learn something new? Lin Yang nodded his head and stood there quietly, waiting for his uncle. After a few minutes, Lin Yi opened his eyes. He looked extremely happy. He took a deep breath and bowed to Jian Wushuang before turning and leaving. Seeing this, Jian Wushuang smiled and said, looks like the Lin family is finally going to have an expert who meets the criteria for the sword doctrine realm. Lin Yang also realized that Lin Yi was going to have a breakthrough in his understanding of the sword doctrine. That was why Lin Yi had left without saying anything. He was going into isolation to train. Brother Wushuang, what is the sword skill that you just cast? It looks foreign to me, Lin Yang said. That sword skill is called Snow Cleave. I created this style after fully understanding and mastering sword principle Snow Tsongulation, Jian Wushuang said. He had been studying the sword principle Snow Tsongulation for 3 months. He had managed to master this sword skill completely. He had created Snow Cleave after gathering the essence from sword principle Snow Tsongulation and combining it with the power of space-time. I finally created my own style in the space-time sword principle after I did the same for the reincarnation sword principle. Jian Wushuang smiled. His understanding of the space-time rules of order and reincarnation rules of order was profound. He had a better understanding of reincarnation rules of order due to the miniature reincarnation, which allowed him to create a style in the reincarnation sword principle. Samsara. Jian Wushuang had never been able to perfectly combine his understanding of the space-time rules of order and the sword doctrine to create a new sword skill. He had finally managed to do so today by creating Snow Cleave. Chapter 23:11 Taunting in terms of sword principle. I have the sword principle Xian Luo that is capable of attacking and defending. In close combat fights, that would be sufficient. However, the sword principle Xian Luo is too ordinary. Although it could eliminate my weaknesses, I won't have much of an advantage either. Therefore, I have to create the most appropriate ultimate move for killing. The space-time sword principle and reincarnation sword principle could perfectly infuse the rules of order. I can follow through with it to the very end. Jian Wushuang had plans for his own sword principles. Long ago, when he was still in the eternal chaotic world, he had thought of taking the paths of time-space sword principle and reincarnation sword principle. However, he had barely gotten in touch with the space-time doctrine and reincarnation doctrine and had not reached the level of the rules of order. Although he had come out with several sword principles, they weren't infused with the rules of order. And now, Wu Yu had left those sword principles aside completely. Instead, he had combined rules of order with the sword principles perfectly in his creation. When he had been in eternal chaotic world, he had made a breakthrough in reincarnation sword principle and come out with samsara. Now that he was in absolute beginning divine world, the birth of Snow Cleave gave him a foundation in spacetime sword principle. Regardless if it was the spacetime sword principle or the reincarnation sword principle, I have created the first move. Moving ahead, it would be constant improvements together with the ordinary sword principle Xian Luo. Only then could I really move towards perfection in my sword principle, Jian Wushuang mumbled to himself. Moving ahead, I have to work harder. Jian Wushuang continued his silent sword cultivation in the Lin Mansion. Time passed quickly. Soon, Jian Wushuang was 16. He had been in the Lin Mansion for over 3 years. In his room, Jian Wushuang sat on his bed with his legs crossed. The 16-year-old Jian Wushuang no longer had the childlike features of his youth. Instead, he looked cooler and handsome. As for his appearance, he had intentionally made himself look similar to how he had been in his previous life. Jian Wushuang opened his eyes abruptly. At that very moment, a dense and powerful divine power emanated from his body. Middle stage pure sun realm. Just as expected, without a limitation on the realm, all I need is to accumulate divine power. This has made cultivation a lot quicker, Jian Wushuang mumbled with a faint smile. Pure Sun Realm was the equivalent of the real God stage in the eternal chaotic world. As for middle stage Pure Sun Realm, it was the same as the second stage of Real God, the eternal Real God. He wasn't too far away from the chaotic realm. Judging from this speed, in another 4 years or when I'm 20, I should be able to reach the chaotic realm. Jian Wushuang thought to himself. The chaotic realm still wasn't his previous pinnacle. Now that he had reincarnated as a perfect chaotic lifeform, once he returned to the chaotic realm, his fighting power would be substantially stronger. Furthermore, once he reached the chaotic realm, he could also start cultivating some secret skills he knew in the eternal chaotic world. He would also be qualified to start with the few secret skills that his master, Shen Yi, had left in his mind. At that time, he would likely stand at the top of the Anzhou prefecture. No hurry. One step at a time. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. All of a sudden, he was alarmed. The extended soul power had detected people walking towards the room he was in. Jian Wushuang walked out of the room instantly. Brother Wushuang. From afar, Jian Wushuang could see Lin Yang approaching. Lin Qingqing was following him. Jian Wushuang could see a tinge of bloodlust gleaming in the eyes of Lin Yang. What happened? Why are you looking so furious? Asked Jian Wushuang. In the 3 years that he had spent in Lin Mansion, Lin Yang had often paid him visits. After several encounters, they had become quite close. Although Jian Wushuang still didn't see Lin Yang as a brother he could go through life and death with, he did see him as a friend. He was also the first friend he had made in absolute beginning divine world since he reincarnated. Brother Wushuang, I would like to ask for your help, Lin Yang said solemnly. Help? Jian Wushuang raised an eyebrow. Speak. What happened? It's the Zhuge family. They are here with their number 1 figure of the younger generation, Zhuge Hong. This guy constantly provoked the disciples of our Lin Mansion and even announced he wants to challenge every single one of the younger generation in Lin Mansion. Lin Yang was fuming as he spoke. Jian Wushuang understood instantly. A conflict within the younger generation. Zhuge family and Lin family were both among the 6 elite families in Anzhou prefecture. Moreover, they had always been sworn enemies. Conflicts were common throughout the year. This wasn't limited to just the higher management. Conflicts and fights between younger generation disciples were equally common. However, going to the Lin mansion directly to taunt was probably a little overboard. What's the matter? Isn't there anyone in the younger generation that is a match for Zhuge Hong? Asked Jian Wushuang. Lin Yang's expression changed a little and he answered, Brother Wushuang, I'll be frank here. Zhuge Hong isn't ordinary. Not only is he exceptionally talented, he also entered the Dongzhuo sect at a young age as a core disciple. His master is a very powerful and frightening chaotic divine demon that isn't any weaker than the commandery governor of Anzhou prefecture. Under the tutelage of his master and grooming of Dongzhuo sect, Zhuge Hong's strength isn't something that the disciples of our Lin mansion can match. Even though I wouldn't like to admit it, I have to say I'm not just a notch weaker than him. Since you can't defeat him, just bear with him. Or perhaps you could ask the higher management of your Lin mansion to teach that Zhuge Hong a lesson, Jian Wushuang said nonchalantly. In his previous lifetime, he had lived for close to 100,000 years in the eternal chaotic world. He had seen far too many conflicts between families and even sects and were numb to them. Since the younger generation disciples weren't a match, they could only bear with them. Finding help externally wouldn't be a wise decision. Jian Wushuang had no intention of being implicated in the long conflicts between the two families. This was because he wouldn't be helping Lin mansion. Rather, he would be doing harm. If they couldn't win, enduring was their only option. When they made improvements, they could find their pride. That was what big families should do. If Zhuge Hong was just taunting, we could just put up with him. However, he went over us over and over again. More importantly, he even humiliated Qingqing in the pass. Lin Yang gnashed his teeth as the bloodlust surrounding him intensified. Oh! Jian Wushuang was taken aback. He took a glance at Lin Qingqing and saw she was looking extremely bitter. Brother Wushuang, Qingqing was only able to continue practicing the hazy sword principle because of your guidance. Subsequently, Qingqing followed your instructions to have more trials in the outside world. However, Qingqing suffered a blow in a recent trial. She was severely injured and a Lin mansion's disciple that accompanied her even died. At that time, the Lin mansion's disciple wanted to escape and look for help for Qingqing. Qingqing was severely injured then and that was the only option. Chapter 23:12 Sounding OU. By the time Qingqing came back with help, that disciple was already dead. This left Qingqing extremely remorseful and she blamed herself for the incident. We had a hard time helping Qingqing get back on her feet. However, Zhuge Hong brought up the incident today again. He even humiliated Qingqing directly and accused her of abandoning her comrade. In the end, Qingqing cried, Lin Yang said coldly. Jian Wushuang took a glance at Lin Qingqing. His impression of her had always been of a gentle and adorable girl. However, he could now see signs of crying. From her eyes, he could tell she was still carrying strong guilt and self-hatred. It isn't just that. For Qingqing, those who know about the incident have never told others about it. There weren't any other people around then either. Logically speaking, no one should know about it. Yet, Zhuge Hong knew. Coupled with the fact that I heard Zhuge Hong happened to be in the vicinity then. If I'm right, they were probably aware Qingqing was in danger then. Furthermore, there's a high chance that this was the doing of Zhuge Hong. As he spoke, killing intent oozed from Lin Yang. Brother Wushuang, although Qingqing isn't my biological sister, she's even closer to me than a real one. I only blame myself for being incapable and unable to teach Zhuge Hong a lesson for Qingqing. I could only come to seek help from you. Jian Wushuang was also moved. Regardless of the taunts thrown out in a quarrel between the younger generation, they could be explained as a fit of anger. However, exposing one's wound in the public and piling on insults, and even resorting to unscrupulous means would be a little much, Jian Wushuang remarked. All right, I'll go take a look with you. Great. Here's at the drill ground in our Lin mansion. Let's hurry there. Lin Yang perked up with joy. Soon, with Lin Yang taking the lead, Jian Wushuang arrived at the drill ground. The drill ground was congested with a large number of younger generation disciples. Also, many Lin Mansion experts had gathered there. In front of these experts, an unruly young man in a black robe was standing there. He had a mocking smile across his face while looking at the crowd from Lin Mansion disdainfully. Although there were numerous Lin Mansion disciples and experts, they didn't amount to anything in his eyes. Jian Wushuang could tell that the young man in the black robe was Zhuge Hong. However, he wasn't paying attention to Zhuge Hong. Instead, he was staring at an old man in a grey robe behind Zhuge Hong. The old man in the grey robe was squinting his eyes and had hidden his aura perfectly. Nonetheless, Jian Wushuang could tell with a single glance that this was a true chaotic divine demon. Chaotic divine demon would definitely be experts at the top of the pyramid in Anzhou Prefecture. The divine demon expert is following Zhuge Hong personally, and yet he has showed no intention of stopping Zhuge Hong. Rather, he appears to be doing so on purpose. Jian Wushuang smiled gently. Lin Yang, if I got it right, Zhuge Hong's purpose isn't simply taunting the younger generation disciples. He is most likely trying to sound you guys out. Sound us out? What do you mean? Lin Yang was puzzled. Lin family has always been in conflict with the Zhuge family. The hatred between both sides runs deep and both parties will want to annihilate the other completely. The only shame is that none of the parties have the absolute strength needed to crush the other. But now Zhuge family is probably thinking of taking action against your Lin family. Therefore, they sent Zhuge Hong over. He looks like he was just provoking you guys but, in fact, has trying to sound out the strength of your Lin family, explained Jian Wushuang. Even so, how is he going to do that? Lin Yang was still confused. He definitely couldn't do so alone. However, did you notice the old man in grey robe behind him? That grey-robed old man is a chaotic divine demon. It is just that he is great at hiding his aura and did not attract the attention of others. Zhuge Hong is acting so arrogantly now. If the younger generation disciples can't stop him, the experts will then be needed. Once an expert shows himself, the grey-robed old man will make a move instantly. His ultimate objective is to force the chaotic divine demon in the Lin Mansion to step in, Jian Wushuang said. Divine demon? That old man is a chaotic divine demon? Lin Yang was astounded. Damn it. My father suffered serious injuries when he fought another chaotic divine demon more than a decade ago. He hasn't recovered fully from it yet. As for the other chaotic divine demon of our Lin family, he has been roaming the outside world for a long time and has yet to return. If the Zhuge family take actions now, that must be it. Zhuge family definitely knows about your family's predicament. His trip this time was definitely to force your father into stepping out so they could assess how much strength your father still possesses. Or perhaps they are trying to find out if the chaotic divine demon that is out has returned. Once they get an answer, the Zhuge family will definitely make a move, said Jian Wushuang. He had lived closed to 100,000 years in his previous lifetime and had seen countless situations. He could see through Zhuge family's plot with a single glance. This won't do. I have to inform my father immediately, Lin Yang said. That's not necessary. Your father had probably seen through the motives of the Zhuge family. Jian Wushuang chuckled. Through his soul power, he could sense that Lin Taifeng and the 3 half-step divine demons of Lin family had hidden together. It seems like the family head of Lin family has no intention of revealing his current fighting powers. Instead, he probably intends for the 3 half-step divine demons to intercept the other party. However, with just 3 half-step divine demons, they will likely not be able to stop that grey-robed old man. Jian Wushuang thought to himself. Divine demon and half-step divine demon might seem really close, but the difference was enormous. Moreover, Jian Wushuang could tell that the grey-robed old man wasn't an ordinary chaotic divine demon. He was definitely powerful. It wouldn't have been realistic to expect just 3 half-step divine demons to hold up against the grey-robed old man. In the end, Lin Taifeng would likely have to step in to knock him back. If that were the case, the other party would be able to tell how much strength Lin Taifeng had left. Brother Wu Shuang, what should we do? Asked Lin Yang. Simple. I just have to step in and dispatch Zhuge Hong. As long as a younger generation disciple can defeat Zhuge Hong directly, that grey-robed old man won't have an excuse to make a move. Their attempt this time won't achieve their objectives. However, if this is the case, I will probably be implicated in the conflicts of the two families, said Jian Wushuang. Brother Wushuang, this, Lin Yang furrowed his brows. It's all right. Jian Wushuang waved his hand and chuckled. Your father and mine are brothers of life and death. If Lin family is in danger, my father will definitely not sit back and do nothing. He would definitely step in and I too would be implicated. Since the outcome is the same, there's nothing to worry about. Let's go. All right. Lin Yang nodded his head heavily before walking forward with Jian Wushuang. Chapter 23:13 Using the finger as a sword. When the crowd saw Lin Yang, the smile on Zhuge Hong deepened. Isn't this the young master of Lin Mansion? So the representative of the younger generation in Lin Mansion is finally willing to show himself. Zhuge Hong mocked. Zhuge Hong, you were just relying on your identity as the core disciple of Dongzhuo sect. What's there to be cocky about? Haha, I just like to. So, are you not happy about it? If you aren't, we can just have a fight here. Isn't that I'm belittling you. However, when it comes to trash like you, I wouldn't even be bothered if 3 to 5 of you guys teamed up, Zhuge Hong sneered. Lin Yang was infuriated, but there was nothing he could do. At this moment, Jian Wushuang finally spoke. To deal with someone like you, there's no need for Lin Yang to do it himself. It was then that Zhuge Hong noticed Jian Wushuang. Judging from his appearance, Jian Wushuang would at most be 15 or 16 years old. At this age, Zhuge Hong wasn't concerned about him. Lad, who are you? Zhuge Hong asked solemnly. I'm just a sword boy under Lin Yang, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. Sword boy? Lin Yang and the crowd from the Lin Mansion were astounded. Lin Yang especially. Back in Incineration Moon City, he had had the intention to take Jian Wushuang on as his sword boy. However, after a quick fight, Jian Wushuang's understanding of sword principle had far exceeded his imagination. This had dispelled his thoughts of doing so. Over this period, Jian Wushuang had remained in the Lin Mansion and was absolutely a distinguished guest. Many experts in Lin Mansion who specialized in sword principle held utmost respect for him. In fact, they even sought guidance from him often. How could he be a sword boy? However, since Jian Wushuang had said so, no one could say otherwise. A meager sword boy, and yet you dare to be rude before me? Scram! Zhuge Hong berated. Hee. Young Master Lin Yang is of exceptional status. He isn't someone that an average Joe can challenge at will. If you want to challenge him, you should at least be able to defeat me. If you aren't even a match for me, it'd be better for you to scram first, Jian Wushuang laughed. That's right. If you don't even dare to fight with a sword boy, you aren't qualified to challenge young Master Yang. Zhuge Hong, I think it would be better if you just run along back home. The majority of the crowd from Lin Mansion knew about Jian Wushuang's identity and started chiming in. Zhuge Hong was furious and his expression turned icy cold. He glanced at Jian Wushuang and said, All right. Let me teach you a lesson first before crushing your young master. Upon hearing Zhuge Hong, Jian Wushuang raised an eyebrow. Although Zhuge Hong was rather talented, he was too young. To put it bluntly, he lacked experience. Young Master Yang, how would you like me to teach him a lesson? Jian Wushuang whispered. That goes without saying. Humiliate him utterly. The more ruthless the better. Lin Yang gritted his teeth. All right, I'll just crush his confidence and make him doubt himself forever, Jian Wushuang answered. Lin Yang was astonished but still nodded. All right, but be careful. Although Zhuge Hong has a crude personality, he is strong. Moreover, there are rumors that he's exceptionally close to the Pure Sun realm. Close to the Pure Sun realm? Jian Wushuang chuckled. Nope. He's already at the Pure Sun realm. What? When he said the words, it wasn't just Lin Yang who was shocked. Everyone in Lin Mansion was astounded as well. As for Zhuge Hong, He glanced coldly at Jian Wushuang and commented, "Your eyes are pretty sharp." When he finished his words, Zhuge Hong no longer attempted to conceal his power. His divine power and aura rose to the level of a pure sun realm rapidly. Pure sun realm. Hes really at the pure sun realm. Oh gosh. Isn't Zhuge Hong just 20 years old? A 20-year-old pure sun realm? The crowd at Lin Mansion was astounded. The spiritual influence of heaven and earth was too dense in the absolute beginning divine world. Cultivators that were born in this environment would naturally have greater talents. Even so, a 20-year-old pure sun realm was an exceptionally rare talent. He would be considered a top-class talent in the entire Wuxia Baron region, let alone the Anzhou prefecture. It was not surprising that Dongzhou sect would place such a high emphasis on Zhuge Hong. Is pure sun realm that incredible? Jian Wushuang's indifferent laughter sounded. Immediately after, a divine power that was no weaker than Zhuge Hong's started rising around Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang was undoubtedly at the pure sun realm as well. What? How could this be possible? This time, even Lin Yang and many others who knew Jian Wushuang were stupefied. Jian Wushuang was just 16 years old. A 16-year-old at pure sun realm. Brother Wushuang, how did you cultivate so quickly? 3 years ago, when I first saw you in Incineration Moon City, I was the same realm as you. Lin Yang mumbled. What he didn't know was that in order to not draw the attention of people, Jian Wushuang had only revealed the strength of early-stage Pure Sun Realm. However, he had already reached the middle-stage Pure Sun Realm. As a perfect chaotic lifeform, Jian Wushuang didn't require the divine power of a Pure Sun Realm to deal with a small lad like Zhuge Hong. Even with ordinary transformed God's cultivation base, he could defeat him easily. However, he would appear to be too insane then. Facing an early-stage Pure Sun Realm with early-stage Pure Sun Realm would be the best. Thanks. I did not expect the Lin Mansion to have a cultivation talent. However, even if you could match me in cultivation base, it wouldn't matter. One's cultivation base wouldn't be a complete representation of one's fighting powers, Zhuge Hong snorted. As he flipped his palm, a faint purple saber appeared in his hand. The blade was extremely thin and had an eerily cold vibe. Lad, show your weapon, shouted Zhuge Hong. Weapon? Jian Wushuang tittered. The next instant, he lifted his right hand and stuck out his index finger. Against you, all I need is a finger. Brazen. Zhuge Hong was infuriated. Even the crowd of Lin Mansion was staring at Jian Wushuang, feeling awestruck. Although he was comparable in cultivation base, Zhuge Hong came from Dongzhou sect and had a powerful master. The various secret skills and means he possessed weren't what the Lin Mansion disciples could compare with. This was especially so for his compelling saber skills. It was said that he had a grasp of the saber principle. Yet, Jian Wushuang hadn't retrieved his sword and wished to fight with just a finger. Was that possible? Many Lin Mansion doubted T. However, those who truly knew Jian Wushuang's understanding of sword principle could understand. It was especially so for the powerful experts in Lin Mansion who specialized in sword principle. Lin Yang was one of them. In the past, Jian Wushuang had defeated him easily with just a branch. He had even done so against Lin Yi. Now, using a finger as a sword against the insignificant Zhuge Hong wouldn't be a challenge. Chapter 23:14 Crush Brat, since you want to die, I'll grant your wish. Intense bloodlust rose from Zhuge Hong. Just come at me with all you got. On the other hand, Jian Wushuang was still maintaining a gentle smile. He even taunted Zhuge Hong by wiggling his index finger intentionally. Zhuge Hong darted forward instantly. Intense divine power surged from all parts of his body as he morphed into a bolt of lightning. The bolt of lightning shot out abruptly and left after images on the drill ground. How quick! This speed is insane. Several Lin Mansion disciples couldn't help but exclaim. That ferocious bolt of lightning reached Jian Wushuang in no time and Zhuge Hong slashed down his faint purple saber towards Jian Wushuang. The saber glow was eerie and about to split Jian Wushuang into two. Just before the saber glow was about to connect, Jian Wushuang took a step out. At the same time, he lowered his stance slightly and swung up his finger in momentum. A simple swing carried with it immense secrets which no one on the field could decipher. However, they could see Jian Wushuang was intending to use his index finger to clash with Zhuge Hong's saber. How bold! Watch how I sever your hand off. Zhuge Hong berated and increased his strength in his saber skills. The next moment, Jian Wushuang's right index finger clashed with that eerily cold saber glow. The surrounding crowd was staring deadly. Most of them believed Jian Wushuang's finger would be sliced off by that eerie saber in the clash. However, dang! They heard sounds of metal clashing instead. Zhuge Hong was astonished and felt a barbaric and powerful strength exerted on him. The next moment, something unbelievable happened before everyone. That eerie faint purple saber cracked upon contact with Jian Wushuang's right index finger and eventually broke into two. How is this possible? Zhuge Hong stared in disbelief. Although his saber wasn't some frightening divine weapon, it was a true terrestrial treasure with high value. Its toughness was easy to imagine. Using all his strength, he clashed with Jian Wushuang's index finger directly. In the end, Jian Wushuang's index remained unscathed, but his saber had cracked and broken. What kind of joke was this? Just as Zhuge Hong was still reeling in shock, Jian Wushuang swung his finger once again. This swing triggered some unique energies in the space and easily break through Zhuge Hong's defense. The next instant, Jian Wushuang's index finger was on Zhuge Hong's chest. Immense divine power shot out and pierced Zhuge Hong's chest, leaving a blooded wound. Fortunately, Jian Wushuang didn't go for the kill. Otherwise, this strike would definitely have extinguished Zhuge Hong's life completely. Fart! Zhuge Hong spat out blood and flew back like a kite that was not held back by a string. The grey-robed old men, who had been behind him all along, dashed ahead and caught Zhuge Hong. You have lost. Jian Wushuang stood on the drill ground and said nonchalantly. Silence shrouded the drill ground. Death-like silence. After some time, the crowd in the drill ground finally reacted to it. Won. We won. Isn't Zhuge Hong supposed to be incredible? How did he get defeated so easily then? Using a finger as a weapon, Zhuge Hong's terrestrial treasure weapon was crushed in a single tap. In the next tap, Zhuge Hong was severely injured. This, strong, too strong, terrifyingly strong. The shock gazes of the crowd gathered on Jian Wushuang. Even those experts of Lin Mansion were incomparably astounded. Some of them knew Jian Wushuang had an extremely high understanding of sword principle and might be able to defeat Zhuge Hong. However, they had never expected Jian Wushuang would crush Zhuge Hong so utterly. Even Lin Yang was dumbfounded. Previously, he was still reminding Jian Wushuang to be careful. Now, that was just a hilarious act. Although Zhuge Hong was powerful, he was nothing before Jian Wushuang. As compared to the astonishment and joy of Lin Mansion, Zhuge Hong, who was defeated by Jian Wushuang, was dazed. His eyes were empty and couldn't believe what had happened. Indeed, he had never expected Jian Wushuang to defeat him before the battle, let alone crushing him so utterly. He was a true talent that even the Dongzhuo sect had high regard for. This made him extremely prideful, and he had always looked down on some cultivators of his age. But today, the pride in him was ruthlessly trampled by Jian Wushuang. Just like what Jian Wushuang had said to Lin Yang, he was going to crush Zhuge Hong's confidence and make him doubt himself forever. And now, Jian Wushuang probably succeeded. Before the watchful eyes of the crowd, the prideful and arrogant Zhuge Hong was crushed by Jian Wushuang. Moreover, Jian Wushuang was using his finger as a sword and broke his weapon with a single tap. This made him realize the humongous gap between them that could never be bridged. More importantly, Jian Wushuang was younger than him. Much younger. This made it harder for him to accept. A blow like this was undoubtedly huge for Zhuge Hong. With this blow, Zhuge Hong's future would likely be affected unless he could find back his confidence within a short period and stood back up. Otherwise, Jian Wushuang might even become the heart demon that he could never shake off in this lifetime. That young master of the Zhuge family had probably snapped when he couldn't accept the fact he had lost to me so completely. For his good, it would be best if you bring him back as soon as possible. Jian Wushuang looked at the grey-robed old man and said with a faint smile. The grey-robed old man gloomed upon hearing. However, seeing the empty eyes of Zhuge Hong, he knew this attempt to sound out Lin Mansion couldn't continue. The most pressing thing to do was to send Zhuge Hong back and help him regain his consciousness. Without hesitation, the grey-robed old man carried Zhuge Hong and left. Before he left, he even looked daggers at Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang felt helpless over this. He knew he would definitely be dragged into the conflict between the Zhuge family and Lin family after he stepped in this time. In fact, that grey-robed old man and Zhuge Hong might even pay more attention to him. However, he didn't mind. After all, his father, Zhuge Yunfeng, had a close relationship with the Lin family. There was no way he would stay out of this. Different situations call for different actions. I have even faced 3 masters of Holy Land. An insignificant Zhuge family is nothing compared to a master of Holy Land. Jian Wushuang chuckled. Chapter 23:15 Lin Mansion. When the grey-robed man left with Zhuge Hong, everyone in the Lin Mansion crowded over. Brother Wushuang, that's amazing. Lin Yang was overjoyed. Brother Wushuang, I'm impressed. Really impressed. You really live up to your name. Today's a good eye-opener for all of us. Zhuge Hong could be considered an elite class talent in the entire Anzhou prefecture or even the Wuxia Baron region. Yet, the difference between him and you is larger than one would expect. Many experts from Lin Mansion joined in praising, expressing gratitude or even paying respect to Jian Wushuang. Although Jian Wushuang was just 16 years old, the strength he displayed in the battle against Zhuge Hong was something that no one in the field would overlook. Moreover, his potential was even greater. Everyone, you guys are too courteous, Jian Wushuang also responded with a smile. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Several figures landing on the drill ground. They were none other than Lin Taifeng and the 4 half-step divine demons who had remained hidden and watched over the entire series of events. When they saw Lin Taifeng, the experts and disciples of Lin Mansion shut their mouths instantly. Nephew Wushuang. Lin Taifeng walked to Jian Wushuang and said, "We have troubled you this time. If it wasn't for you, the Lin Mansion would be utterly embarrassed." "It was just a simple act," replied Jian Wushuang. "Haha. Your simple act did help my Lin Mansion greatly. If I'm not wrong, the Zhuge family was probably trying to sound out the strength of our Lin Mansion today. Or rather, they are trying to find out the extent of my recovery. If you did not defeat Zhuge Hong and let him press the issue, I would most likely be forced to step in." Jian Wushuang kept his smile. He knew Lin Taifeng would be able to see the true intentions of Zhuge family since he could be the family head. "Oh right. Wushuang, I saw you broke Zhuge Hong's weapon with just your finger. Zhuge Hong's weapon was most likely a terrestrial treasure. Yet, you are able to break it. Considering that both of you are at similar cultivation bases, I guess your understanding of sword principle has probably reached the level of great achievement." Lin Taifeng turned to Jian Wushuang abruptly and asked, "Great achievement in sword principle?" Several Lin Mansion experts who specialized in sword principle had now turned to Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang only responded with a casual smile and didn't answer directly. However, his smile could be seen as a wordless sign of consent. Just as I expected. Seeing Jian Wushuang did not mention otherwise, and Lin Taifeng was astounded. He was able to tell from the battle previously. In the absolute beginning divine world, the classifications of one's cultivation base, weapons, elixirs, and various aspects were different from those in the eternal chaotic world. In the eternal chaotic world, the most powerful weapon was just Chaos Divine Treasure. However, Chaos Divine Treasure was just a blurry concept. Many experts that stood at the top of the eternal chaotic world owned Chaos Divine Treasures. Yet, their might differed greatly. Together with the immense restrictions of heaven and earth, even those great emperors that stood at the pinnacle would find it hard to maximize the real strength of some Chaos Divine Treasures. It was also because of that the classification of Chaos Divine Treasures was blurry. However, the classification of weapons in absolute beginning divine world was much clearer and defined. There were ordinary weapons, terrestrial treasures, heavenly treasures, divine treasures, and others. Terrestrial treasures were already hard to come by. Even chaotic divine demons would be extremely interested in them. However, Jian Wushuang was able to forcefully destroy a terrestrial treasure class saber with just the strength of his finger. This would only be possible if he possessed an extremely frightening sword essence. That sword essence was something that couldn't be found in those with only initial success in sword principle. It was because of that Lin Taifeng believed Jian Wushuang had likely achieved great achievement. And for great achievement in sword principle, not a single person in Anzhou Prefecture had reached this level. This lad's talents in sword principle are truly astonishing. Lin Taifeng thought to himself. Uncle Lin. Jian Wushuang looked at Lin Taifeng and said, I have been troubling you and the Lin family for more than 3 years. It's about time and I should be returning to Incineration Moon City. You are going back. Lin Taifeng furrowed his brows. The surrounding crowd, including Lin Yang, Lin Yi, and many experts were also shocked. If it was possible, they would of course want Jian Wushuang to remain in the Lin mansion. With an expert that had achieved great achievement in sword principle to guide cultivators that specialized in sword principle, it would be even better than having a chaotic divine demon guiding them. However, they also knew Jian Wushuang wasn't from the Lin mansion after all. He was just a guest that resided in the Lin mansion temporarily. Now that Jian Wushuang wished to return to the Incineration Moon City, they naturally wouldn't have any reason to stop him. I've been away from home for too long and I should be heading back, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. All right. Lin Taifeng didn't plan to get him to stay. In that case, it's already late today. I'll get Lin Yi to send you back personally the next morning. Thank you, Uncle Lin Yi. Jian Wushuang turned to Lin Yi. You are being too courteous, Lin Yi responded warmly. Soon, Jian Wushuang returned to his room and started packing. Although Lin Mansion was in chaos when Zhuge Hong arrived, peace returned after Zhuge Hong left. Soon, the night fell. In a luxurious restaurant of a city that was a short distance away from Lin Mansion, an old man in a grey robe was standing in the room with his hands behind his back. Your Honor, this is the information from the Lin Mansion. A man in a silver robe entered the room and handed the grey-robed old man a jade bamboo strip. The grey-robed old man took a quick glance at it as his murky eyes suddenly lit up. It's him. The grey-robed old man mumbled to himself before waving his hand. You may take your leave first. The man in the silver robe bowed and left the room. The grey-robed old man brought the jade bamboo slip to the inner room of the restaurant. Zhuge Hong, who had been defeated by Jian Wushuang in the Lin Mansion previously, was sitting in the room. This is the information we got from Lin Mansion. You can take a look. The grey-robed old man handed the jade bamboo strip to Zhuge Hong. Although he was a chaotic divine demon and definitely an elite expert or overlord class existence in Anzhou Prefecture, he was still rather humble before Zhuge Hong without any pretension. He wasn't from the Zhuge family and obviously wasn't a senior family member to Zhuge Hong. However, he was from Dongzhou sect and had been arranged by Zhuge Hong's master to be here. His objective was to make things easier for Zhuge Hong. By this point, Zhuge Hong had recovered his vitality. However, he still looked a little defeated and down. Clearly, the battle had been an overly huge blow to him. His pride and confidence had been ruthlessly trampled and it would have been difficult for him to recover immediately. Nonetheless, he still took the jade bamboo strip and glanced at it. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.